to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
Israel is appealing arrest warrants from the International Criminal Court. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu takes a stand again in his corruption trial.
The federal government says it's addressing the drone sightings in New York and New Jersey as Congress works to expand local authorities' ability to track and respond to drones. Concerned citizens are left waiting for answers.
President Biden and Vice President Harris speak at a DNC event in Washington. What they said about the future of the Democrats after the administration's term ends.
President-elect Trump will have his hands full when he takes office. He will have to navigate an economy with persistent inflation concerns. A look at the numbers.
A deadly cyclone sweeps through the French island of Mayotte, killing hundreds of people potentially and destroying hundreds of homes.
Amazon workers vote to approve strikes at 2 New York City facilities. It's unclear if any further negotiations have been scheduled.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Today is Monday, December 16th. I'm Stephanie Cox.
And I'm Don Ma.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirms he had a, quote, very warm phone call with President-elect Trump Saturday night.
The discussion included their takes on Israel's efforts to secure a victory over Hamas in Gaza and bring the hostages home, and Netanyahu's new plan to expand settlements in the occupied Golan Heights after the fall of Syria's regime leader Bashar al-Assad.
A year ago, I said a simple thing. We will change the Middle East, and indeed we are changing it. Syria is not the same Syria. Lebanon is not the same Lebanon. Gaza is not the same Gaza. And the head of the Axis, Iran, is not the same Iran. I discussed all of this again last night with my friend, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. It was a very friendly, very warm, and very important conversation. We spoke about the need to complete Israel's victory, and we also spoke at length about the efforts we are making to free our hostages.
Israel has appealed arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court. The warrants accuse Prime Minister Netanyahu of war crimes, which Israel denies. Foreign ministry officials call the charges baseless and argue that ICC actions undermine justice. Meanwhile, Netanyahu has approved new plans to expand settlements in the Golan Heights, with his government allocating $11 million to double the area's population. In Gaza, hopes for a ceasefire grow as Hamas signals concessions while Israel continues airstrikes and ground operations in northern Gaza.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took the stand again today in Tel Aviv. It's the second week of his long-running trial for alleged corruption. Netanyahu is charged with fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes in these 3 separate cases. He is accused of accepting tens of thousands of dollars worth of cigars and champagne and exchanging favors with wealthy associates. Netanyahu denies wrongdoing, saying the charges are a witch hunt. The prime minister is the first sitting Israeli leader to take the stand as a criminal defendant.
Former Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad made his first statement today since being ousted by a rebel offensive. He said he planned to keep fighting rebel forces until Russia evacuated him. In a written statement shared on Telegram, Assad said he remained in Damascus until the early hours of December 8th as the city came under drone attack.
He said he left the capital that morning as opposition fighters closed in. The group leading the charge was Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, which the U.S. and other countries consider a terrorist organization. The group seized Damascus after a lightning advance that sent Assad fleeing to Russia, ending more than 50 years of Assad family rule.
And as President Biden prepares to leave office, he says his administration has left the country in better shape than when he found it.
The president spoke alongside Vice President Harris at a DNC event in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Take a look.
President Biden and Vice President Harris attended the Democratic National Committee's holiday reception on Sunday. They promised to stay engaged after their administration ends in just a few short weeks.
And let us always remember our country is worth fighting for, and our spirit will not be defeated. And I promise you, I will be with you every step of the way.
She always served this country with purpose and integrity, and she always will. And you're not going anywhere, kid, because we're not going to let you go.
The president told the assembled crowd that it is more important than ever to keep organizing. He said the measure of a person or party is how fast they get back up. Biden reflected on his time in office, highlighting the work his administration did in the last 4 years. He said some of the legislation passed during his term was historic and will change America for decades to come. He also cited over $1.4 trillion in infrastructure investments and what he called the biggest investment ever in climate.
The one thing I've always believed about public service, and especially about the presidency, is the importance of asking yourself, have we left the country better shape than we found it? Today, I can say with every fiber of my being, with all my heart, the answer to that question is a resounding yes.
Harris highlighted the unity and dedication of their supporters, saying they came from all walks of life to fight for America's future.
And we who know that the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, it's based on who you lift up.
A new White House memo Sunday outlined Biden's top priorities before he leaves office. They include expanding presidential pardons and moving climate initiatives forward. Biden last week pardoned 39 nonviolent offenders and commuted the sentences of nearly 1,500 others. Also on his list, student debt relief and allocating funding from the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act. The memo also says Biden plans to address concerns about the use of AI. He has repeatedly warned of how AI can be misused to spread disinformation.
Inflation remains a top concern for millions of Americans in 2024. When President Trump left office, inflation was about 1.5%.
Now, as he returns, inflation is near 3%, double the rate.
Since January 2021, consumer inflation has surged by 21%. Prices for essentials like electricity and bread are up 28 and 25%. Wages have risen about 20%, but they still lag behind inflation. Real wages, adjusted for rising prices, remain 3% below 2021 levels.
Despite easing inflation, consumer sentiment is still low. Many Americans feel they are in a recession, citing high costs of living. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index has improved but remains below pre-pandemic levels. While inflation has cooled, its impact continues to weigh on households.
U.S. inflation saw another uptick in November. The Commerce Department recorded its highest rate since July.
Are Americans feeling the pinch of price increases, and are they hopeful for relief during a second Trump administration? NTD Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to hear from them.
Are you feeling the pinch of inflation right now?
Oh yes, very much so. I would say everything from rent to groceries since the last year has gone up.
I don't think it's a question, it's just a fact that it's way more expensive now than it was like 5-10 years ago. It's hard to live even off of like an $80K salary nowadays. Even then, like you need a 2-income household.
And where are you from?
New Jersey.
Oh yeah, that's one of the more expensive states.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say we're middle class, but at this point we feel
on the lower end of
on the lower end of that.
So we're seeing inflation. We feel it. We fortunately are not heavily impacted by it because we're comfortable.
Compared to a lot of other economies, the U.S. economy is doing great. So I can't complain.
I guess the whole thing is that milk and gas, right? Like if milk is one price, gas should never be more than milk, but milk seems to be, it's flipping.
I don't know how people are affording housing. Thank God we bought a few years ago. We really have had to kind of watch what we're purchasing, make certain things a priority.
What kind of changes do you anticipate when Trump becomes president in this next year?
Well, as a small business owner, Mac Daddy Spuds, I hope that it goes back to like when he was first in office, like the economy seemed to be stronger.
I can expect a lot of international trade to come through.
It's going to look pretty much parallel to the previous administration of Trump.
Just a positive economy to watch inflation hopefully go down, interest rates start to drop.
There's 3 levels of the government, right? We all function together, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I read everything about the tariffs. It will get worse, a lot worse. That's what I'm thinking.
I think just like his foreign policies and his economic policies will probably do something that's going to be helping out the country.
You know, in the surrounding area we have, you know, over 500,000 to millions of government employees, and if they lose their jobs by the government being gutted and budget cuts, then we're going to see a whole lot of people out of work.
A lot of our friends and family, even those that voted for the other guy, have a hope that we haven't had in a very long time.
Senator Lindsey Graham says the U.S. wants to prevent ISIS from regrouping on the battlefield in Syria.
He told NBC News yesterday the terrorist group should not be allowed to change the face of the Middle East.
You don't want these people in charge of the Mideast. They want to drive us out of the Mideast, and they want to destroy our friends in Israel. There are 50,000 ISIS fighters under the control of Kurdish allies of the United States in northeastern Syria. It is in our national security interest they do not break out of jail and reestablish the caliphate. It is in our national security interest that we help the Kurds who destroyed the caliphate on our behalf.
Senator Graham stressed the need for a demilitarized zone.
He warned that Turkey putting pressure on the Kurds in northeastern Syria could result in ISIS fighters breaking out of jail. He called it a nightmare scenario.
Coming up, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says the federal government will take action on the New Jersey drone sightings, but that officials don't have the authority to shoot them down.
A stern warning. Google's former CEO said autonomous artificial intelligence is coming and that it could pose an existential threat to humanity. More on his comments after the break.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms, but then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
Get store-wide savings at Mathis Home during the holiday savings event. We have all the latest styles with hundreds of sofas starting at just $3.99. Dining sets and bedrooms at the lowest prices ever, and we're the only place with top-name recliners starting at just $195. It's all in stock, so you get it faster with our free delivery. So for the latest in fashion for your home at the best value, shop the holiday savings event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
The list of states with reported drone sightings now includes New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Virginia, and Ohio. State and local police are trying to investigate the aircraft, but they don't have the authority to counter them. That could change under proposed legislation, though.
We need from Congress additional authorities to address the drone situation.
Calls are growing for new federal legislation to address drones. That's as several northeastern states now report unexplained sightings.
It can't be the Wild West of drones out there in Jersey or anywhere else.
The Homeland Security Secretary says he has deployed technology and personnel to New Jersey. That's where the reports began. New Jersey State Police are trying to track the aircraft, but only certain federal agencies have the authority to shoot them down.
We want state and local authorities to also have the ability to counter drone activity under federal supervision.
Democrats appear to support letting police do more about drones with limitations. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he's going to co-sponsor legislation to, quote, give local law enforcement more tools for drone detection. Some Republicans say they're frustrated the public isn't receiving more information about recent sightings. Federal officials say they have no evidence of a safety or security risk, but President-elect Donald Trump's pick for national security advisor says the drones show gaps between agencies.
We need to take a hard look at our homeland defenses. We need to have an all-of-the-above protection of U.S. airspace.
One of the country's most important Air Force bases says it closed temporarily due to drone activity. That's according to a spokesperson for the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. He says officials restricted airspace over the base for about 4 hours from Friday into Saturday. Joining us now for analysis is Brandon Weichert, senior editor at the defense publication 1945.com. Welcome, Brandon. Good to see you, as always. There's concern about the threat that these drones might pose from foreign adversaries or other bad actors. Meanwhile, you've also suggested that the drones could be directed by U.S. authorities. What's your reasoning there?
Yeah, no. So basically, of course, the Chinese in particular, but also the Iranians are foreign threat actors that absolutely have certain capabilities with drones that could be a threat to us. But in the specific case of what's going on here in the United States, to me, this looks like U.S. government or a defense contractor system on display. It might be a case of the left hand not talking to the right hand. I've heard reports also that, in fact, there is an ongoing national military exercise. This could very well be part of it, and part of that exercise might be not letting those outside of the exercise know that an exercise is going on, to sort of test the nation's responses. And as Mike Waltz just said in that clip, the incoming national security advisor for the Trump White House, our national defenses at home are very lacking, to say the least. So this could be some test going on where they're not letting everybody else in the government and the public know this is a test.
And based on the response that we've seen and the gaps there, you mentioned some lawmakers pointing out that there are gaps between the response between different agencies. What do you think is needed to tighten those gaps?
Well, I mean, anytime Mayorkas, the current Secretary of Homeland Security, makes a recommendation, I start to get uncomfortable because I think this guy is a bad actor. So I don't know if what we need is greater federal authority to knock out these suspected drones. I think what we need is to let states decide how to handle the drone situation as it occurs. Let the local state, let the local cities come up with policies and programs to protect their airspace. I realize this is a traditional federal area, but at the same time, Americans do have a right to have drones. We use drones for a retinue of businesses and delivery services, and so we would hate to start coming into a situation where any drone is being popped out of the sky out of an abundance of caution. So I think that the localities and the states would have a better idea of how best to respond. I think the Mayorkas Homeland Security Department is probably not the best group to rely on for our security, judging how they've mishandled the border.
Now, Mayorkas has confirmed that the sightings are in fact of drones, but he did say that some are manned aircraft. What could that indicate about the source, the operation, or risks involved potentially?
Yeah, so the problem here is the panic factor has become so great. This is why the government should figure out what it is. If it is a government exercise, they need to basically get everybody on the same page in D.C. Because now people are starting to say that aircraft coming out of like Newark Airport is suddenly they think it's a drone because they don't recognize it. And people are now, there's videos out there shooting at what are clearly planes on their final approach to an airport. So we don't want to have this become so panicked that people are shooting at aircraft. The bottom line is the Navy in particular, about a decade ago, started experimenting with trans-medium drones. And that's a drone that can work underwater and then take regular flight and vice versa. And I think if you look at some of these videos that we're seeing, particularly coming out of New Jersey along the coast, where these lights are either coming out of or going into the ocean after being airborne, I think this could be a test of possibly those systems. The Chinese are developing similar systems as well.
Speaking of the Chinese, you know, there have been recent cases of foreign actors flying drones over restricted space here, including a Chinese national who was actually arrested just before he was boarding a flight to China, presumably with the information that he had gathered. What are the risks of these kinds of actions from foreign adversaries potentially?
Oh, no, the risk is there, especially because our borders have been opened under the Biden regime for the last 4 years. We know that military-aged Chinese males, for instance, have come in on, you know, without any questions asked to our border, and they're God knows where in the United States. And so it is possible that these drones are in fact part of a covert Chinese military operation to destabilize the home front. And so that's always a threat. And the Chinese certainly have a very sophisticated drone operation. And I think that is something to consider. I know our friend Gordon Chang has been saying this, and I think that we should consider that. But I think that in the specific case of what we're seeing right now, I just can't help but think that this is probably some U.S. government operation that maybe should now be outed.
And on that point, some Republicans are saying they're frustrated that the public isn't receiving more information about these recent sightings. Do you agree or disagree with that? You saying you want more, but what kind of information would be safe to release?
Well, I think the fact if the government just came out and said, look, this is a national exercise, we weren't communicating with the public because that was part of the exercise. But I think that if they could just come out and tell people, please don't shoot at aircraft passing overhead thinking that it's a drone or it's a UFO. It's neither of those things. But the government, the Biden regime, keeps misstating things. They keep confusing people. They're adding to the chaos. And I don't know if it's incompetence on their part or purposefulness, but it needs to stop, because if it is a foreign threat actor, the government should come out explicitly and say, these are foreign threats and we are going to take direct action. But the fact that they have not taken direct action against these systems indicates to me that this is something probably more going on than just it's a foreign threat actor. It's probably something our government is doing, and they don't want to knock out their own systems.
Food for thought there. Thank you so much, Brandon Weichert.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Okay, Republican lawmakers are promising to send a budget reconciliation bill to President-elect Trump within the first 100 days of his administration.
House Republicans and Senate Republicans already disagree on how to approach the legislative procedure. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez walks us through what a budget reconciliation is and the challenges we can expect to see in 2025.
Budget reconciliation is a special legislative procedure that allows for the U.S. Congress to pass legislation through the Senate with a simple majority. That means with 51 votes or with 50 and the vice presidential tiebreaker. Now, budget reconciliation is not a silver bullet for any legislative proposal coming out of Congress. It has to deal exclusively with either spending, revenue, tax collection, or the deficit, the borrowing power of the federal government. The president still has to sign a budget reconciliation bill, so it's not only up to Congress to pass this legislation. And as I just mentioned, it has to be only related to spending and revenue. It cannot deal with anything other than that.
Y'all have heard me talking about our proverbial playbook we've been developing for about a year. It's well designed, and so we have a menu of options. What we're deciding right now is the sequence of how we run those plays, and it's really important. The House and the Senate have different calculations on how that's done.
Now, the process is as follows. The president draws up, usually in the first days of the year, a budget proposal, sends it to Congress, and then the Senate Budget Committee and the House's Budget Committee draw up reconciliation instructions with budget caps. They send those instructions to the different committees. The different committees come up with bills following those instructions. They lump them all together into an omnibus bill or an omnibus package, and that package has to pass exactly the same in the Senate and in the House. And once it does, it is sent to the president's desk.
The incoming administration, the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans, we got to take care of the border as a top priority, and we will. We've got to get the economy going again, and we will. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. The sequence and the use of reconciliation is really important.
Now, the trick, of course, is to have the House and the Senate agree on budget totals and budget priorities. Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who will lead Senate Republicans in the 119th Congress, has a budget reconciliation proposal of 2 budget reconciliation bills. According to John Thune, he wants to see within the first 30 days of a Trump administration a budget reconciliation bill to address border defense and energy. Of course, this would be relating to spending in these areas. And then his proposal also includes a second reconciliation bill within the first 6 months of Trump's presidency that will tackle taxes and other priorities. We already know that right here, Jason Smith, Congressman, chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, is in opposition of this proposal. He wants to see one big reconciliation bill tackling border defense, immigration, energy, and tax reform. Now, that difference, we'll have to see how it plays out and whether during the first 30 days of Trump's administration, Republicans can deliver a reconciliation bill.
A look now at a tragic incident in Texas. Police in Houston say 2 teens were killed and 4 were injured in a shooting at a makeshift club.
Officers responded to a shooting in progress call at approximately 11:20 p.m. today. As they arrived, they saw a very hectic scene, a large crowd of people running out of a makeshift club. It's kind of one of these last-minute parties, pop-up parties that have been popping up lately. It's kind of like a social media deal. Seems like the crowd was a majority juveniles. Once they kind of got here, they started tending to all the injured parties. We have several people that were injured by gunshot wounds. At this point, due to the preliminary information,
Police say a 16-year-old male died at the scene and a 14-year-old female died at a hospital.
The 4 who were injured, all females, were hospitalized. An injured 13-year-old was in critical condition, while an 18-year-old was in serious condition. A 17-year-old and 19-year-old were both in stable condition.
And police in New Mexico say a teenage boy has been arrested in connection with the deaths of his family members.
The 16-year-old was taken to the hospital after being found extremely intoxicated.
Authorities say the teen called 911 and told the dispatcher that he had killed his entire family.
Police say he is being charged on 4 counts of murder and will enter a juvenile detention center.
Next, Google's former CEO Eric Schmidt is warning that artificial intelligence will soon work autonomously, and that could pose a threat.
Schmidt told ABC's George Stephanopoulos that Chinese AI technology has advanced with remarkable speed.
We're soon going to be able to have computers running on their own, deciding what they want to do. And eventually you say to the computer, learn everything and do everything. And that's a dangerous point. When the system can self-improve, we need to seriously think about unplugging it. Well, I used to think we were a couple of years ahead of China, but China has caught up in the last 6 months in a way that is remarkable. The Chinese are clever, and they understand the power of a new kind of intelligence for their industrial might, their military might, and their surveillance system.
Schmidt said it's crucial for the U.S. to innovate, but also warned that current regulation related to AI is insufficient.
He talked about steps that companies follow to ensure their AI do not give harmful information, but increasing competition could potentially lead to some companies omitting these steps.
The small town of Scotts Valley in Northern California is reeling from a rare tornado. It flipped cars and brought down utility poles Saturday afternoon. A bar door camera inadvertently captured the twister on video. Bruno's Bar and Grill shared the footage, which showed the tornado after it touched down near a shopping mall. The Scotts Valley Police Department said several people were injured and taken to hospitals. The rare tornado activity in California occurred alongside a broader winter storm, bringing heavy snow and strong winds across the state. Retail stores in New York can no longer sell puppies, kittens, or rabbits. The change, which started yesterday, is an effort to crack down on the mistreatment of animals in puppy mills.
But those losing their businesses and jobs say they're going after the wrong enemy and that there is much more to the story. NTD's Sean Marshall has more details.
Retail stores in New York State can no longer sell puppies, kittens, and rabbits after December 15th, or risk penalties of up to $1,000 per violation of the new puppy mill pipeline law. The ASPCA sent us a statement for their reasoning behind supporting the law. It reads, pet stores often advertise that their animals are top quality and come from responsible breeders. But the sad reality is that these dogs are trucked in from out-of-state commercial breeding facilities, also known as puppy mills, where dogs often spend their entire lives in wire crates without adequate shelter, veterinary care, food, or socialization.
This is a money game. It's not about the animals, it's about money. It's about money.
Emilio Ortez, a manager at City Pups in Manhattan, is losing his job of over 20 years and believes the law should go after the criminals rather than shut down the retailers.
A lot of these rescues and shelters are getting dogs from places way worse than what they accuse us of, and they don't have to disclose where the dog is from. They don't have to reimburse clients for medical expenses. They could just make up some swap story. Like here, we have to tell you where the dog is from. We got to pay for your medical. All these things disincentivizes us from being the evil that they accuse us of.
Retail stores are being forced to either sell online or rebrand as humane pet supply stores and invite shelters and rescuers in to do adoption events. Ortiz says the process in the United States is nothing like the Dominican Republic, where friendly dogs on the street become part of the community.
Not once did it ever occur to people in the Dominican Republic, let's wrangle them all up, confine them in a shelter, and then threaten to kill them unless somebody gave us money for them. Not once.
The Pet Advocacy Network joined 6 New York businesses in filing a lawsuit to stop the law from passing before more consumers, animals, and local businesses are seriously harmed. But according to the Pet Advocacy Network, a judge denied that lawsuit. Mike Bober, president and CEO of the Pet Advocacy Network, told NTD that the PAN is looking at their options and have 30 days to file an appeal. He said, "We are frustrated and disappointed that Judge Tenari ignored the widely available evidence that pet sale bans don't work, and that it's a catastrophe that this would happen to the workers and businesses right before the holidays." Sean Marshall, NTD News.
Coming up, Russian President Vladimir Putin today addressing the nation, saying Russia is advancing on the battlefield. That's as the European Union adopts yet another sanctions package, now also targeting China.
A deadly cyclone sweeps through the French island of Mayotte, potentially killing hundreds and destroying hundreds of homes. That and more after the break.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. on food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. Or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wright. We thank you for joining us and watching America's Hope here on NTD News. Bottom line is, I know you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. But let's give you some good news in the midst of the bad news. Watch us nightly, right here on NTD News, for a full dose of America's Hope.
I'm Stephanie Cox, and this is World Watch. Russian President Vladimir Putin gives an update on the situation on the battlefield. The European Union is implementing a new set of sanctions against Russia. Israel is going to close its embassy in Ireland, and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has asked Parliament to declare it has no confidence in him. Russian President Vladimir Putin today giving an update on the situation on the battlefield. He said Russia captured nearly 190 settlements this year. Putin said Russian troops are making significant gains, and he added that he hopes it'll stay that way. He also noted an increase in military enlistment, with around 430,000 men signing up this year compared to 300,000 last year. Russia's defense minister also addressed the nation. He said military spending reached 6.3% of Russia's GDP, a number in line with Moscow's budget proposals. Next, the European Union is adopting its 15th sanctions package related to the war in Ukraine. The new restrictions target 84 individuals and entities, including 7 Chinese individuals and entities. Some are accused of helping bypass the EU sanctions. The EU statement says 4 Chinese entities supply sensitive drone components to the Russian military. Today's additions mark the first fully fledged EU sanctions on China that include a travel ban and frozen assets. A European diplomat said the move sends a message to China showing the EU takes the matter seriously. And Israel will close its embassy in Ireland over what it calls the Irish government's extreme anti-Israel policies. Ireland has supported international legal action against Israel for its war in Gaza. Israel recalled its ambassador to Ireland in May after the government legally recognized the state of Palestine. Israel's foreign minister said the decision to close the embassy in Dublin came after, quote, anti-Semitic rhetoric rooted in the demonization of the Jewish state. Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris said the decision was regrettable, saying Ireland is pro-peace, pro-human rights, and pro-international law. Foreign Minister Michael Martin said the two countries would maintain diplomatic relations. And Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz asked Parliament today to declare no confidence in him. This marks the first formal step towards securing an early national election after his government's collapse. The collapse left Scholz without a parliamentary majority when Germany faces its deepest economic crisis in a generation. After Scholz loses the vote, he can request a dissolution of parliament from the president. Scholz described the snap election as an opportunity for voters to set a new course for Germany. He'll remain as caretaker leader until the new government can be formed after the election next February. Authorities said today that 7 foreign tourists were hospitalized in Fiji with nausea, vomiting, and neurological symptoms. This happened after drinking cocktails at the bar of a resort. Local news reported that the group included 4 Australians and an American. They were drinking together at the Warwick Resort before they became ill. A relative of the 2 Australians told Australian media the women were discharged from the hospital today. Health officials said they don't know the cause of the illness and that it was too soon to know if poisoning was involved. A major rescue operation is underway today in Italy. Rescuers are working to free a spelunker who was trapped while exploring a cave with 8 others. The woman is blocked deep inside the Bueno Fontano cave. She was injured after falling some 16 feet Saturday evening during an expedition to map an uncharted branch of the cave. Rescuers reached her late Sunday and have used small explosives in an attempt to reach her. Alpine rescuers said that the woman is alert and responsive. A team of 20 technicians is operating inside the cave, and dozens more are assisting above ground. A major cyclone in the Indian Ocean devastated the French archipelago of Mayotte over the weekend. The top local official says the death toll from Cyclone Shido may be in the hundreds, if not thousands. Here are the details.
Video released on Sunday by the French Gendarmerie showed the wreckage of hundreds of makeshift houses after the most powerful cyclone in nearly a century struck the archipelago of Mayotte in the Indian Ocean. A top local official told a local outlet that several hundred, maybe even thousands, may have been killed by Cyclone Shido. Asked about the death toll of several hundred, the French Interior Ministry said, quote, "It will be difficult to account for all victims," and said a figure could not be determined at this stage. The storm brought winds of more than 124 miles per hour and damaged makeshift housing, government buildings, and a hospital. It was the strongest storm in more than 90 years to hit the islands. Mayotte's islands have been a focal point for illegal immigration from nearby Comoros. In recent decades, thousands have attempted to cross from Comoros on the east coast of Africa to Mayotte, which has a higher standard of living and access to the French welfare system. According to the French Interior Ministry, over 100,000 undocumented migrants live in Mayotte. Some 77% of the people in Mayotte live below the French poverty line. The cyclone went on to hit northern Mozambique on Sunday.
The leader of South Korea's ruling party, Han Dong-hoon, said today that he was stepping down.
The move comes 2 days after the parliament passed President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment vote.
I'm stepping down from the position of leader of the People Power Party. With the resignation of the party's Supreme Council members, the council has collapsed, making it impossible for me to continue fulfilling my duties as party leader in a normal manner.
Han's resignation follows backlash within his own party over his stance on President Yoon's impeachment. Despite the criticism, Han said he had no regrets about his position. President Yoon was impeached after a second vote by the opposition-led parliament. The move was sparked by his controversial and short-lived attempt to impose martial law earlier this month.
South Korea's Constitutional Court begins reviewing Yoon's impeachment today. The court has up to 6 months to determine whether to remove Yoon from office or reinstate him.
Coming up, Amazon workers vote to approve strikes at 2 New York City facilities. It's unclear if any further negotiation has been scheduled.
Bitcoin hits a record $106,000 mark after comments from President-elect Trump saying he would do something great with cryptocurrency. That and more after the break.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, the highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
Tangazo hili linahusu njaa. Tarajia kuona watoto wakiwa na njaa katika maeneo haya. Mambo yalikuwa bora kwa miaka mingi. Tuliweza kupigana na njaa na watoto wachache walikufa. Lakini sasa mambo yamebadilika na kwa mabaya zaidi. Hii ni kwa sababu wakati huu ukame umeangamiza zaidi.
Через війни та конфлікти ми мусимо залишати наші домівки і всі наші речі. Ми навіть не маємо їжі. Тому нам потрібна ваша допомога.
Millions of children are fighting to survive due to inequality, conflict, poverty, and the climate crisis. Save the Children is working alongside communities to provide a better life for children. And there's a way you can help. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We urgently need 1,000 new monthly donors in the next 30 days to help the children we support around the world. You can help provide food, medicine, care, and protection, plus so much more that a child needs, by calling right now and giving just $10 a month.
Ви можете допомогти голодуючим родинам вижити. और बच्चों को भूख से मरने से रोक सकते हैं.
All we need are 1,000 monthly donors in the next 30 days. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10. Thanks to generous government grants, every dollar you give can have up to 10 times the impact. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
Toto kote duniani potrzebuють вашої допомоги.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives.
I'm David Lamb in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we are NTD News.
Coming up in today's Business Matters, Amazon workers in New York City vote to authorize a strike. Volkswagen's union faces off against management, and a new way to shop gains traction, and parents use Santa Claus as leverage. Starting off, Amazon's Teamsters union has voted to approve strikes at 2 major warehouses in New York City. It said the decision came after Amazon missed its December 15th negotiation deadline. The Teamsters represent Amazon workers at 10 facilities around the country. In June, over 5,500 employees at its Staten Island facility joined the Teamsters and chartered Amazon Labor Union Local 1. The Teamsters said it comes amid a fight for increased wages, better benefits, and safer working conditions. In Queens, Amazon workers at the company's largest delivery station in the city voted to approve a walkout of their own. It was unclear if negotiations were scheduled. Volkswagen's union says negotiations over cost cuts must exclude plant closures or redundancies. A last-ditch 5th round of talks before Christmas began today. Unions have threatened walkouts at an unprecedented scale beginning in 2025 if an agreement is not reached this year. Both sides are prepared for the talks to last several days. If it's clear an agreement cannot be reached, negotiations will pause until next year. More than 100,000 staff at 9 plants across the country laid down tools last week in the largest strikes ever seen at the automaker. Workers are protesting proposed wage cuts and downsizing that management says is necessary to keep VW competitive. A new way to shop is gaining popularity. More Americans are using buy now, pay later services. Some people are turning to this plan to avoid accumulating massive credit card debt. More and more retailers are adopting what is known as BNPL. A new report shows on Cyber Monday, consumers spent nearly $1 billion using buy now, pay later. Now, that was a record amount, by the way, for a single day. Analysts say buy now, pay later spending in the United States is up this year. Last year, consumers spent more than $75 billion, up from $65 billion in 2022. Experts, though, caution that while these services can offer flexibility, they also carry financial risks, especially if consumers miss paying back what they owe. Now, parents are using Santa to make sure their kids behave this holiday season. According to a new study by CS Mott Children's Hospital, 1 in 4 parents are using Santa or the threat of no gifts to get their kids to correct certain behaviors. But it's not always an easy fix. Experts warn that threats can backfire, especially when parents don't follow through, and that parents should learn to lean on each other and not be afraid of public meltdowns when they happen. The survey looked at 725 parents who have at least one child aged 1 to 5 years old. Meanwhile, Bitcoin surged to a record high today. This came after President-elect Trump said he would do something great with crypto because he doesn't want China taking the lead. Here are the details.
Bitcoin just keeps heading higher. The world's top cryptocurrency hit fresh record highs above $106,000 in Asian trade Monday. That defied the predictions of some analysts, who had expected a pullback after it broke through the 100,000 level. It's all about the Donald Trump effect.
Hello, Bitcoiners.
Bitcoin bounced after comments from the president-elect that suggested he could create a US Bitcoin strategic reserve, akin to its existing oil reserves. Late last week, he told CNBC that he would do something great with crypto because he didn't want China taking the lead. When asked if he planned to create a strategic reserve, he said, "Yeah, I think so. It's a move other countries have considered." Earlier this month, Russian President Vladimir Putin questioned whether state reserves needed to be held in foreign currencies and appeared to flag Bitcoin as an option. But skeptics also abound, including Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. He says Bitcoin is volatile and not used for payments or as a store of value, making it no rival to the dollar. Even so, market optimism over crypto knows few limits right now. Bitcoin is up over 50% since Trump's election win, lifted by a bet his administration will be friendly to digital assets. He's appointed crypto advocates to key positions overseeing the sector and running the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Visiting Santa Claus is something many children wish for as the spirit of Christmas time inspires them to dream. On Saturday, dozens of kids on a festively decked out plane in Denver cheered when the pilot announced their destination for the day would be the North Pole.
NTD's Daniel Monahan brings us this heartwarming story.
Who's ready to go to the North Pole?
More than 100 children took the magical journey, some of whom have serious health struggles. They were taken on a roughly 45-minute flight near the city before landing back at Denver International Airport. They were then towed to a hangar, transformed by United Airlines employees and volunteers into the North Pole. Streamers, paper snowflakes, and tufts of cotton, resembling feathery snow, dotted the plane and seats. Flight personnel paraded a bubble machine up and down the aisles. Holiday songs played in the background, and there were snacks and juice for all. United Airlines partnered with Make-A-Wish Colorado, Girls Incorporated, Children's Hospital Colorado, and Rocky Mountain Down Syndrome Association to invite Denver area kids aged 3 to 10 years on the flight.
And we are taking them all to get a little magic in their life. All these kids have some more challenges and can use a little extra magic at this holiday season.
Before landing, the children were asked to close their window shades. When they opened them, they were met by the sight of a waiting Santa and Mrs. Claus and a host of elves. An ice cream truck was on hand, and the children also received gifts.
You know, the kids, it gives them a day where they are away from some of the challenges they face in their day-to-day life. So bringing a little magic and some gifts to their holiday season is something they'll never forget.
6-year-old Bryce was fired up to see Santa and all the North Pole had to offer.
I'm excited to see Santa is because telling him what I want for Christmas, and he might give me it or might not. I don't know. It's just exciting getting to see.
Captain Bob Zimmerman was struck by the youngsters' joy and wonder.
So to see the joy in these kids when they truly believe they're going to North Pole to see Santa Claus. You know, if we could live life through the eyes of a child, think like a child, forgive like a child, love like a child, that's what we get to see.
For more than 30 years, United has been staging its annual fantasy flights to fictional North Poles at airports around the world to bring holiday cheer to children and their families. This year they took place in 13 cities. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And France was full of Christmas cheer over the weekend.
Thousands of runners dressed as Santa Claus hit the streets outside Paris yesterday for a festive 10-kilometer race.
Organizers handed out the classic red and white hats and coats, but some participants got creative with their outfits. One marketing manager showed up as the Grinch, bringing a mischievous twist to the holiday spirit. The Grinch is also the spirit of Christmas, he said, explaining his unique choice.
The festive costumes turned heads and delighted onlookers, spreading holiday joy throughout the area.
Looks like fun.
Yeah, sure does.
Well, you know, we saw a lot of Santas actually going through the streets this weekend in New York City as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's called SantaCon. It draws around 30,000 people each year, and it's a pub crawl. But this year, it apparently was rivaled by a sober version called Elf Project. Kid-friendly, family-friendly version. So there you go.
Fascinating. You know, what I would have wished in that race that we just saw on TV is that they would don the full Santa costume instead of just the hat and a red T-shirt. You know,
you gotta commit, right?
I feel like that would have made the race more enjoyable and kind of humorous to watch.
Well, go hard or go home. I see what you're saying. All right. For breaking news and special reports, tune in to NTD.
And watch us live at ntd.com/live. Stay with us. We're going to bring you more after this break.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic, so I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
Did you know indoor air quality can be 5 to even 100 times worse than outdoors? Meet the Air Doctor. It's your answer for clean air and the only hospital-grade air purifier equipped with advanced Ultra HEPA filters, proven to improve your indoor air quality and overall health. Air Doctor circulates and triple filters the air in your room up to 5 times per hour. Say goodbye to pollen, smoke, mold spores, pet dander, even viruses, because the Ultra HEPA filter removes virtually 100% of dangerous contaminants down to 0.003 microns. That's 100 times smaller filtration than ordinary HEPA purifiers. This would have been in your lungs. Finally, get relief from allergies and asthma and reduce airborne disease.
It's pulling the pollutants out. It's even pulling the toxic chemicals that our cleaning products leave behind.
Call or go to tryair40.com now. Get 40% off our best-selling air purifier.
Call 1-800-876-0163. Call now.
Get store-wide savings at Mathis Home during the holiday savings event. We have all the latest styles with hundreds of sofas starting at just $3.99. Dining sets and bedrooms at the lowest prices ever, and we're the only place with top-name recliners starting at just $195. It's all in stock, so you get it faster with our free delivery. So for the latest in fashion for your home at the best value, shop the holiday savings event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
The federal government says it's addressing the drone sightings in New York and New Jersey. As Congress works to expand local authorities' ability to track and respond to drones, concerned citizens are left waiting for answers.
Israel is appealing arrest warrants from the International Criminal Court. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu takes a stand again in his corruption trial.
Former Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad breaks his silence with his first statement since being ousted by rebel forces.
And what's next for the vice president after losing the presidential race? Some are saying she's considering a run for governor. We speak to a friend of the vice president.
Another federal judge reverses retirement, the third to rescind a retirement since November's election. Critics say the reversals are politically motivated.
The French Interior Minister arrived on the French island of Mayotte. A powerful cyclone hit the island over the weekend, leaving hundreds feared dead.
This is NTD News Today, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Today's Monday, December 16th. I'm Stephanie Cox.
And I'm Don Ma.
The buzz around mystery zone sightings continues. Now the federal government says it's taking action to address the issue in New Jersey.
This comes as members of Congress prepare measures to enhance local authorities' ability to track and respond to drones. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the story.
Several states, including New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Virginia, and Ohio, are now reported to have sighted flying objects appearing to be drones.
Just as I'm sitting here, you can see clearly 3 drones sitting outside of our town hall, hovering over what could be our reservoirs, our electrical grid system, and most importantly, our military installation that calls Middletown home.
In New Jersey and New York, the DHS secretary says the federal government deployed detection systems to address the drones. Governor Kathy Hochul said on Sunday that she's grateful for the support, but the state needs more. Specifically, local authorities need more power to not only detect the drones, but also to directly deal with them.
Because right now, it's our county sheriffs, it's our local police departments, it's our state police that are at the front lines, yet the federal government has the jurisdiction.
Senate Leader Chuck Schumer says he's preparing legislation for Congress to expand local authority. And while federal officials have continuously said they have no evidence of a safety or security risk, concerned citizens await answers.
Right. I mean, it's not enough because people still have a lot of questions to understand where they're from.
Potentially our own government that may be doing some surveillance or counterterrorism, but then be honest. Be honest with the public and let people know, because right now we feel like a bunch of characters in War of the Worlds, and we deserve to know the truth.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirms he had a, quote, very warm phone call with President-elect Trump Saturday night.
The discussion included their takes on Israel's effort to secure victory over Hamas in Gaza and bring the hostages home, and Netanyahu's new plan to expand settlements in the occupied Golan Heights after the fall of Syria's regime leader Bashar al-Assad.
A year ago, I said a simple thing. We will change the Middle East, and indeed we are changing it. Syria is not the same Syria. Lebanon is not the same Lebanon. Gaza is not the same Gaza. And the head of the Axis, Iran, is not the same Iran. I discussed all of this again last night with my friend, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. It was a very friendly, very warm, and very important conversation. We spoke about the need to complete Israel's victory, and we also spoke at length about the efforts we are making to free our hostages.
Israel has appealed arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court. The warrants accuse Prime Minister Netanyahu of war crimes, which Israel denies. Foreign ministry officials call the charges baseless and argue that ICC actions undermine justice. Meanwhile, Netanyahu has approved new plans to expand settlements in the Golan Heights, with his government allocating $11 million to double the area's population. In Gaza, hopes for a ceasefire grow as Hamas signals concessions, while Israel continues airstrikes and ground operations in northern Gaza.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took the stand again in Tel Aviv today. It's the second week of his long-running trial for alleged corruption. Netanyahu is charged with fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes in 3 separate cases. He's accused of accepting tens of thousands of dollars worth of cigars and champagne and exchanging favors with wealthy associates. Netanyahu denies wrongdoing, saying the charges are a witch hunt. The prime minister is the first sitting Israeli leader to take the stand as a criminal defendant.
Syria's former leader Bashar al-Assad continues his first statement since rebel forces toppled his regime.
Assad fled to Russia last week, a close ally of his.
The former Syrian leader posted on Telegram today saying that his departure from Syria was neither planned nor did it occur during the final hours of the battle. He said he left Damascus the morning of December 8th, the day that rebel forces entered the city. Russia decided to evacuate him later that day from a military base as rebels' attacks intensified.
Assad's statement reads, "I have never sought positions for personal gain, but have always considered myself as a custodian of national project." Assad's family has ruled Syria for over 50 years. He has been a close ally of Russia and Iran. International human rights groups have documented abuses under the Assad regime, including arbitrary arrest and torture.
Senator Lindsey Graham says the U.S. wants to prevent ISIS from regrouping on the battlefield in Syria.
He told NBC News yesterday the terrorist group should not be allowed to change the face of the Middle East.
You don't want these people in charge of the Mideast. They want to drive us out of the Mideast, and they want to destroy our friends in Israel. There are 50,000 ISIS fighters under the control of Kurdish allies of the United States in northeastern Syria. It is in our national security interest they do not break out of jail and reestablish the caliphate. It is in our national security interest that we help the Kurds who destroyed the caliphate on our behalf.
Senator Graham stressed the need for a demilitarized zone.
He warned that Turkey putting pressure on the Kurds in northeastern Syria could result in ISIS fighters breaking out of jail. He called it a nightmare scenario. Trump campaign advisor Alex Brazewitz collapsed on stage while speaking at the New York Young Republican Club Gala last night. The 27-year-old CEO of consulting firm X Strategies has been credited with helping the president-elect engage young American voters. In video footage of the speech, Brazewitz was heard saying, "I'm forgetting my words," before he collapsed and fell off stage. Brazewitz worked with Trump's son Barron during the 2024 presidential campaign to boost outreach to young people. Toward the end of his campaign, Trump sat down with several popular podcasters, like Joe Rogan, for example. Theo Von, Lex Friedman, and others. The Rogan interview alone drew 52 million views in just over a month. Brazewitz's current condition was unclear.
And a federal appeals judge has reversed his decision to retire. The judge, James Wynn of the Fourth Circuit, announced the change last week.
He is now the third judge to rescind retirement since November's election.
In his letter, Wynn did not cite a specific region. His withdrawal also halted plans to confirm Biden nominee Ryan Park. Park had been nominated to replace Wynne, but later withdrew. Critics have labeled the move as politically motivated. Senator Tom Tillis called it partisan and unprecedented.
Two other judges, Max Cogburn and Algernon Marbley, also reversed retirements. All three were originally appointed by Democratic administrators. This reshapes upcoming judicial confirmations as President-elect Trump prepares to take office.
A former FBI informant is set to plead guilty today to lying about a phony bribery scheme. The case involved President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Alexander Smirnov is expected to make the plea in Los Angeles to a felony charge in connection with the made-up story. He will also plead guilty to a tax evasion charge. Smirnov has been behind bars since his arrest in February. He claimed that executives from the company Burisma paid Biden and his son Hunter $5 million each in 2015. Prosecutors and the defense have agreed to recommend a sentence of between 4 and 6 years in prison. Smirnov had been an informant for more than a decade when he made the explosive allegations about the Bidens in June 2020. Coming up, what's next for Kamala Harris? Will she run for president again, or could she even be the next governor of California? We speak to a political strategist and friend of the vice president.
President-elect Trump will have his hands full when he takes office. He will have to navigate an economy with persistent inflation concerns. A look at the numbers after the break.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan Omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3. Greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
My dad was a farmer, and when I saw him on a horse, the guy was bigger than life. One of the things that he had a hard time doing was showing the emotion. Maybe it was because the way he was raised, or believing that men provide and they don't struggle. But we all struggle. I want to show emotion to my kids. I want them to know when I'm happy, I want them to know when I'm sad, and I want them to see me working through things. The biggest reward I get from being a dad is watching my kids accomplish a goal, watching them light up. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face. So I make my kids a priority. Whether it's hitting a baseball, a dance rehearsal, you name it, I'm there. They're gonna remember that they grew up loved. Be brave. Be there every day. And allow your kids to know that it's okay to struggle. That even dad doesn't know the answer sometimes, but we're gonna figure it out together.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
Welcome back. As President Biden prepares to leave office, he says his administration has left the country in better shape than when he found it.
The president spoke alongside Vice President Harris at a DNC event in Washington, D.C. yesterday.
President Biden and Vice President Harris attended the Democratic National Committee's holiday reception on Sunday. They promised to stay engaged after their administration ends in just a few short weeks.
And let us always remember our country is worth fighting for, and our spirit will not be defeated. And I promise you, I will be with you every step of the way.
She always served this country with purpose and integrity, and she always will. And you're not going anywhere, kid, because we're not going to let you go.
The president told the assembled crowd that it is more important than ever to keep organizing. He said the measure of a person or party is how fast they get back up. Biden reflected on his time in office, highlighting the work his administration did in the last 4 years. He said some of the legislation passed during his term was historic and will change America for decades to come. He also cited over $1.4 trillion in infrastructure investments and what he called the biggest investment ever in climate.
The one thing I've always believed about public service, and especially about the presidency, is the importance of asking yourself, have we left the country better shape than we found it? Today, I can say with every fiber of my being, with all my heart, the answer to that question is a resounding yes.
Harris highlighted the unity and dedication of their supporters, saying they came from all walks of life to fight for America's future.
And we who know that the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, it's based on who you lift up.
A new White House memo Sunday outlined Biden's top priorities before he leaves office. They include expanding presidential pardons and moving climate initiatives forward. Biden last week pardoned 39 nonviolent offenders and commuted the sentences of nearly 1,500 others. Also on his list, student debt relief and allocating funding from the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act. The memo also says Biden plans to address concerns about the use of AI. He has repeatedly warned of how AI can be misused to spread disinformation.
And what's next for Vice President Harris? Some are saying she could run for California governor or could wait for another presidential run. Others say she needs to make a decision soon because she can't do both. For clarity, we talked to Timothy Allen Simon, a political strategist and personal friend of the vice president. Thanks for coming on, Timothy. Have you spoken with Vice President Harris about this recently, and what have you heard, if anything?
I have not. I was not attending the party at the National Observatory, but I do think that the vice president has considerable optionality in front of her, that being with California being the 4th or 5th largest economy in the world, being the governor of California. When I served in the Schwarzenegger administration, for example, he would refer to California as the nation state. It has that level of magnitude and impact on world affairs, where a California governor arguably is part of the G7. On the other side of the coin is that Vice President Harris lost the election by 1.5%, an estimated 257,000 votes in the key battleground states. That is not a mandate. Hence, she would still be considered, I believe, the front runner for the Democratic Party if she opted to run in 2028. With that being said, yes, she has to make a decision soon, but I don't think immediately. I think she has time to establish exploratory committees, which is the common practice, to begin to make the determination as to what is the best move for her and the nation and the state of California.
And what, if anything, in addition to what you've just laid out, would Vice President Harris be considering in deciding whether to run for president or follow another path?
Well, one, I think, what does she want to do, number one? And then two, what is the most attainable goal? I think there's no question that if she decided to run for California governor, there is no one in the Democratic Party who could effectively challenge her at this time. She has the highest level of recognition amongst any potential candidate. But looking at the presidential race, it would be a vicious primary for the Democratic Party, similar to what Republicans have gone through, in order to determine after a defeat who should be the one to take the party and the nation to the next level. If I were a betting man, I obviously would say that she has a better shot at governor of California. But again, as we speak, with President Biden more or less riding into the sunset, she is the leader of the Democratic Party. And I don't think she should be taken lightly in terms of her ability to stage an effective opposition and potential victory over the next Republican candidate, since President Trump cannot run again.
And if she were to run for office again, what do you think she would need to do differently for a more successful campaign?
Well, one, I think she would, which she did not do in her race, is really separate herself from certain Biden policies. You can't just ride on the coattails of President Biden. You have to establish a criteria and a platform that effectively distinguishes in those areas where the Biden administration is not perceived as being as successfully as touted, but also establishing your own tradition as a Democratic Party candidate. That's difficult. Even in the state of California, for example, President-elect Trump achieved 40% of the vote. So she's up against not just a president, not just a candidate, but in terms of the Trump administration, really a movement. But if J.D. Vance is going to be the expected heir to the Republican Party's claim, I think that she would match up very well against a J.D. Vance in a national election.
And what do you think worked well for her in the limited time that she had to run a campaign? And you know, how could she expand on that?
Very good point. 107 days. Her fundraising capabilities. And of course, we had a California treasurer who was also Speaker of the Assembly, Jess Unruh, said that money is the mother's milk of politics. Vice President Harris has proved that she is a MAGA or mega fundraiser. And I think that ability already puts her at the front of the line of presidential politics.
All right, and that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much, Timothy Allen Simon. Great to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
And you. President-elect Donald Trump is now speaking to reporters at Mar-a-Lago. He's joined by Japan's SoftBank Group CEO Masayoshi Son.
Son is set to announce a $100 billion investment in the U.S. over the next 4 years. Let's tune in.
Thank you. Thank you. It's amazing. It's a great gentleman, a great leader, and a great investor. So to have that offer made, and we have so many companies coming in now that will be announcing, or that will announce themselves. We don't have to be with them to do it, but they'll be announcing. And as I said, small business optimism took a 41-point jump. 41 points. It went up 41 points. That's unheard of, and that's the biggest they think in recorded history, but they know at least a minimum of 39 years, so that's great. But on behalf of the American people, I want to thank Masa for his faith in what's happening with our country and what's happening with the world. There's a whole light over the entire world. Many people, some reporters, in speaking to them, they said, you know, it actually is true. A couple of them are not necessarily friends of mine, but they said it is actually true that there's a light shining over the world. We're trying to help very strongly in getting the hostages back, as you know, with Israel and the Middle East. We're working very much on that. We're trying to get the war stopped, that horrible war that's going on in Ukraine, with Russia, Ukraine. We're going to, we've got a little progress. It's a tough one. It's a nasty one. It's nasty. People are being killed at levels that nobody's ever seen. You know, it's very level fields, and the only thing that stops a bullet is a body, a human body. And the number of soldiers that are being killed on both sides is astronomical. I've never seen anything like that. And rapidly, I get reports every week, and it's not even, you know, it's like just they're going down. Nobody's seen anything like it. It's a very flat surface, a very flat land. That's why it's great farming land. It's the breadbasket for the world, actually. But it's very flat, and there's nothing to stop a bullet but a body. There's no protection, no nothing, and it's what's happening there is far worse than people are reporting, for both sides. So we're going to do our best, and we've been doing our best, and we'll see what happens. But since the election, I've been working every day to put the world at ease a little bit, to get rid of the wars. We had no wars when I left office, and now it's the whole world is blowing up. But there's great optimism, and you saw that by SoftBank. Starting on day one, we'll implement a rapid series of bold reforms to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We had it in my term. We had the greatest economy that the world had seen. We were blowing away everybody. Our country was doubling up on China, doubling up on everybody, and everybody knows it. And then we had to slow it down with COVID, unfortunately, at the end. But even then, I gave it back with a substantial increase of the stock market, bigger than it was pre-COVID, so it was pretty amazing. Already preparations are underway to slash massive numbers of job-killing regulations, eliminating 10 old regulations for every new one. You put a new regulation on, you have to get rid of 10, and we'll be able to do it. And that was about the percentage we had. We cut more regulations than any president has ever cut, by far, actually, by approximately 5 times. Some of those regulations, unfortunately, were put back on, but we'll catch up very quickly. We'll catch up with it. One of the things I'd like to ask the Biden administration, as you probably heard, there are 2 events that took place. We're talking about a friendly takeover, a friendly transition, as they like to say. This is a friendly transition, and it is, but there are 2 events that took place that I think are very terrible. One is that if people don't come back to work, come back into the office, they're going to be dismissed. And somebody in the Biden administration gave a 5-year waiver of that, so that for 5 years, people don't have to come back into the office. It involved 49,000 people. For 5 years, they don't have to go. They just signed this thing. It's ridiculous. So it was like a gift to a union, and we're going to obviously be in court to stop it. The other thing is really terrible. We spent a tremendous amount of money on building the wall. The wall was designed specifically by the Border Patrol because it's very hard to climb. They need to have see-through. They need it to be steel because you can't cut. It's very powerful steel. It's very hard steel. It's a special type of steel, but very, very hard to cut. Inside the steel, as you know, we pour concrete, and that's a grade 10 concrete, which is a very strong concrete, very as though you were building about a 60-story building. It's very powerful concrete. They've made tremendous technology advances in the word concrete. Who would think that? But I know that from the construction industry. Today, what you can do with concrete is incredible. So we have a very strong concrete. And then we have a rebar. We put rebar inside the concrete, and the rebar likewise is very hard to cut. So it's a very expensive process, very expensive wall. And then we put a anti-climb plate on the top. You saw that. And I didn't like the look of it, but then when I watched, we had people testing. We had mountain climbers actually testing, and they were not able to get over the anti-climb plate. So I said, all right, I guess we're going to put it on. That plate on top, which I never loved the look of it, but it works so unbelievably well, you have to do it. So we spent a lot of money on building it, and we have hundreds of miles that we put up. A lot of people don't realize, but we did 571 miles of wall. That's why we had such good records, in addition to the fact that Mexico helped us with their military. They kept people out, and they were actually very good under the past leader. But now we ordered an additional 200 miles of wall. It's very expensive, and now it's about double the price of what it would have been 6 years ago. And the administration is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up. And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it, and if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it, and it'll cost double what it cost years ago, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars, because you're talking about a lot of wall. I built much more than I said I was going to build, but then after it was built, I said, you know, we can do some more because it's sort of like water, people flow through, and that will pretty much really take care of it. And what happened is they just As you see, they're trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar. And that's really, that has nothing to do with a smooth transition. That has to do with people really trying to stop our nation. And all it means really is that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, not even talking about the time. The time would be pretty long, but we'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars more on building the same wall that we already have. And people have already come back to us that have deals at 5 cents and 4 cents, and one guy at 3 cents on the dollar, and they offered to sell it back to us at more money than it costs us to build substantially. Can you believe it? So they make a deal with the United States to buy it for pennies, and then they call us and they say, do you want to buy it back? We'll sell it back to you for hundreds of dollars a foot. Hundreds of dollars, from pennies to hundreds of dollars a foot. And we can't let this take place. Now we're going to go. I spoke with the Attorney General of Texas. I spoke to the senators of Texas. I spoke to a lot of people, and hopefully they'll be able to stop. We're going to be, having a restraining order. But just think about how ridiculous it is. And this is just people that don't want this country to succeed. And this has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. This has to do with common sense. We won on common sense, and this is maybe one of the most egregious examples I've seen. So the people that are buying it or trying to buy it are trying to make a deal with us to sell it back at hundreds of times more than we paid. And this is all because the Democrats. So I'm asking today Joe Biden to please stop selling the wall. We're going to use that to create a strong barrier. And it worked. That's why our numbers were so good. It really worked, and it worked well. And it's very expensive to do. And I'm asking Joe Biden to stop his people from giving it away. It's something that people can't even believe is happening. So hopefully Joe will be able to stop it. We'll soon unleash American energy, and this will be done at levels not seen before, issuing quick approvals for pipelines, drilling, and other infrastructure. It'll be clean energy, and we'll bring in the price of electricity, and we're going to bring it down fast. We're also going to create clean coal. Clean coal is something that has really taken over. We have coal that will last for over 1,000 years. We have so much coal, and with a process, it becomes clean coal. It's very powerful energy, unlike wind. It's very, very powerful, and we're going to be doing a lot of clean coal for the people of West Virginia and others, Wyoming, so many states. We have great states, and they'll be happy to hear it. But we're going to be very much into clean coal. I don't ever use the word coal. I use the word clean coal. And I'll keep my promise to pass historic tax cuts for American families, workers, and businesses that create jobs in America. As you know, we're giving tax cuts if they do it here. We brought it down from 44%, 42%. In some cases, it was 39%. We brought it all the way down to 21%. And now we're bringing it down to 15%, but only if they make their product, their car, or whatever they're doing in the United States, in the U.S. And people are thrilled. I've had the smartest people on Wall Street call me. They said, where'd you get that idea? And it doesn't seem that complicated, right? But it's it's like the paperclip. Nobody ever thought of it. One guy thought of it. Everybody looked at it. They said, wow, that was a good idea. Why didn't I think of it? But we're bringing it down 6 more points, and that will put us really at the best level we've ever had for bringing in business. We've never been down to that level. We'll be among the lowest taxed states, and a lot of businesses are going to come in. Between that and our taxing and tariff policies, we're going to have business like nobody's ever seen in this country before. That's why we're having a 41-year record in optimism from small businesses and big businesses. And I'll keep my promise to pass historic tax cuts for families, workers, and businesses that create jobs in America. Any business that invests $1 billion or more in the United States will be eligible for fully expedited permits and approvals, including environmental approvals from the federal government. So when companies come in, if they're going to invest $1 billion or more, there'll be many of them, and they'll go into Detroit, and they'll go into a lot of places where we want them. You saw how well I did with the auto workers. We did unbelievably. You saw how well we did with the Teamsters and also the non-union were record 98%, 97%. Nobody's ever got numbers like that because we're bringing business back, and they're all coming back. We lost them over years of stupidity, I call it. I call it the years of stupidity, the decades of stupidity. Through the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk has been working very hard with various people, including Vivek. We're going to eliminate hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and fraud. And I can only tell you, I'll give you a little early report, they're finding things that you wouldn't even believe. So we're looking to save maybe $2 trillion. And it'll have no impact. Actually, it'll make life better, but it'll have no impact on people. It's not like we will never cut Social Security, things like that. It's just waste, fraud, and abuse. And we'll immediately restore the sovereign borders of the United States and stop illegal immigration, which is costing us, I believe, trillions of dollars a year. I think it's a cost that nobody's ever seen anything like it. I don't know how can you be satisfied releasing prisoners into the United States. Think of this. You're releasing prisoners from jails all over the world, not just in South America. From the Congo, I would talk about it all the time. They're a very big sender of people. But from all over the world, they're sending prisoners out of their jails. Some of their jails are empty, and they will be empty soon if this ever continued. I spoke with the president of Mexico, and as you know, I spoke with Justin Trudeau of Canada, and we told them it's not fair, not right. You can't let these people come into our country. And they understand. They're very much on notice, and they're going to have to stop this from happening. They're going to have to stop it. We lose a lot of money to Mexico. We lose a lot of money to Canada, tremendous amount. We're subsidizing Canada. We're subsidizing Mexico. That can't go on. And I get along with the people of Mexico and Canada very well, but we can't let that happen. Why are we supporting and giving other countries hundreds of billions of dollars? It's not fair. It's not right. And the people of Mexico and Canada fully understand that. We've talked about it before, but now we're doing something about it. We started, and then we had to fix the COVID situation, and that's what we did. But now we're doing it. We're doing it from the beginning. Howard will be largely in charge. We'll be working on it together. Howard's terrific. He's done a fantastic job, and he's really helped us a lot with transition. I think we have fantastic people coming in. So all of these policies will help us rapidly defeat inflation, create millions of new jobs, and put money in the pockets of the hardworking families of our country, pay off debt. We're going to be paying off a tremendous amount of debt. We're at $36 trillion. You don't want to be there. And we're going to be using a lot of the money that we make. We're going to be opening up a lot of businesses are going to be pouring in because of our tax policy. And we're going to use the money that we made to pay off debt and to reduce taxes. We're going to further reduce taxes. If you remember when we reduced them last time, that brought a tremendous amount. We brought it down to 21%, and that was the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. And nobody ever thought this would happen, but this is what's supposed to happen. We actually ended up taking in more revenue at 21 than we did at 40%, which was pretty amazing. But this will be the most exciting and successful period of reform and renewal in all of American history, maybe of global history. The golden age of America, I call it. It's begun. So it's the golden age of America, and that's what it's going to be. And we hope we don't have any intervening problems, because things happen. Like out of nowhere came the China virus. Out of nowhere came other things we don't want to have. You know, when I left, we had no wars. We had no problems. The Middle East was good. We did the Abraham Accords. We did things that nobody thought were even possible. But think of it, 4 years ago, we had no wars. You didn't have Russia going into Ukraine. They wouldn't have done it. They weren't even thinking about it. When they saw what happened in Afghanistan, I think they gave them an idea. But they wouldn't have done it. They would have never gone. President Putin would have never gone in. And now you look at all those people are dead. All those cities are destroyed. You know, it's nice to say they want their land back, but the cities are largely destroyed. They've left Kiev because probably maybe they want to use it or occupy it, but they haven't done it. They've done a lot of damage, but relatively compared to the other cities, very little. but many of those cities are gone. Those beautiful towers, those beautiful buildings that they had are now laying on their sides, destroyed, totally destroyed. The turrets and all of the magnificent 1,000-year-old, 2,000-year-old structures that were very strong are blown to smithereens. You look at some of those cities and not one building standing. So, you know, when you say take over the country, take over what? Take over what? That's a 100-year rebuild. Take 100 years to rebuild it, and you can never have it the way it was. What a shame. It should have never happened. It would have never happened. If I were president, that war would have never happened. Nor would Israel have happened with the attack on Israel. So we're inheriting big challenges at home and all over the world. Again, we had no wars. We had no problems. We had no inflation. We had it less than 1%. Perfect number. And then we had inflation, the likes of which I say, I don't believe the country's ever seen inflation like that. They say 38 years. I don't know. I think it's probably ever, but we're going to take care of all of it. We're going to get the prices down by energy. The energy is going to come in. We have more energy than anybody else. We're going to use it. We don't have to buy energy from Venezuela when we have 50 times more than they do. It's just insane what we're doing. So we will not rest until America is richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. And we have a big head start. Last time we didn't. And last time we didn't know the people. We didn't know a lot of things. But by the time we got it up and going, it was incredible. Again, we built the greatest economy in history for that period of time. And we'll do it again. I believe substantially more so. Because we understand, number one, the people of Washington. I know them. I didn't know any of them virtually. I relied on other people for recommendations. Some were very good recommendations. We had some great people. Bob Lighthizer, I thought, was great. We had a lot of great people. And but we had some people that I wouldn't have used in retrospect. And now I know them better than anybody, better than they know themselves. So once again, I'd like to thank Massa for what he's done with that investment, which will end up being $200 billion, I believe. But I just want to thank him. He's just an outstanding man. When you have that kind of brain power wanting to invest in this country, and that's money that he can't invest elsewhere. So that's a big investment, but makes me feel very good. Makes me feel that we're absolutely on the right track. So thank you to Massa, and we'll take a couple of questions. Yeah, please. Jeff. Yeah.
Since your election?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the Putin question, but I will comment on Bibi. We had a very good talk. We discussed what is going to happen, and I'll be very available on January 20th, and we'll see. As you know, I gave warning that if these hostages aren't back home by that date, all hell's going to break out, and very strong. But we generally just discussed, I asked him, where are things? Mike Waltz they're doing a great job, by the way. Everybody is very happy. I think he's doing a fantastic job. But he was very much involved in the call. But it was a recap call more than anything else.
President, how do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
Who?
How do you plan to stop the ban on TikTok next month?
We'll take a look at TikTok. You know, I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok has something to do with that. Now, Joe Rogan did, and some of the other people that were recommended by my son Barron, he knew names. I said, who is that? Tell me, who's that? Dad, you gotta be kidding. I can't believe you don't know. And I did those interviews, and it was actually sort of cute, if you want to know the truth. But we did them. And that had an impact, but TikTok had an impact, and so we're taking a look at it. But you know, we won youth. Republicans are always 30 points down in youth. I don't know why, but we ended up finishing. There was one poll that showed us down about 30. We were 35 or 36 points up with young people. So I have a little bit of a warm spot in my heart, I'll be honest. Yes,
President, are you entertaining the idea of preemptive strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities?
Against who?
Against Iran's nuclear
Well,
facilities.
I can't tell you that.
Would you?
I mean, it's a wonderful question, but how can am I going to do preemptive strikes. Why would I say that? Can you imagine if I said yes or no? You'd say, that was strange that he answered that way. Am I going to do preemptive strikes on Iran? Is that a serious question? How could I answer a question like that? Say it.
Would you be in support of Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear
How could I tell you a thing like that now? It's just so you don't talk about that before something may or may not happen. You know, just I don't want to insult you. I just think it's just not something that I would ever answer having to do with there or any other place in the world.
President Trump.
President Trump.
Time magazine interview. Can I ask, just clearly, do you believe there's a connection between vaccines and autism? Do you believe there's a link?
Well, I don't look. Right now, you have some very brilliant people looking at it. I had dinner the other night with the head of Pfizer, the head of Eli Lilly, and RFK, as you know, and Oz. And we had, and other people within the administration that are involved, in the medical. And we're looking to find out, you know, if you look at autism, so 30 years ago we had, I've heard numbers of like 1 in 200,000, 1 in 100,000. And now I'm hearing numbers of 1 in 100. So something's wrong. There's something wrong. And we're going to find out about it.
What about the
Can I follow up on Robert Kennedy? He's on the Hill today. He's meeting with senators. What do you say to people who are worried that his views on vaccines will translate into policies that will make their kids less safe?
No, I think he's going to be much less radical than you would think. I think he's got a very open mind, or I wouldn't have put him there. He's going to be very much less radical. But there are problems. I mean, we don't do as well as a lot of other nations, and those nations use nothing. And we're going to find out what those problems are. And another thing that came up, the dinner was fascinating because I had Bobby and I had, again, the head of Pfizer. You know who that is. He's a highly respected man who has run an incredible company. Likewise with Lilly, the top two people. And we had the head of the industry also. So all companies were represented. And I said, let's have it out now a little bit. And you know what came out of that meeting is that we're paying far too much because we're paying much more than other countries. And we have laws that make it impossible to reduce. And we have a thing called the middleman. You know the middleman, right? The horrible middleman that makes more money, frankly, than the drug companies. And they don't do anything except they're a middleman. We're going to knock out the middleman. I'm going to be very unpopular after that statement.
Mr. President,
I don't know who these middlemen are, but they are rich as hell. And we're going to knock out the middlemen. We're going to get drug costs down at levels that nobody has ever seen before. And that really, I tell you, we spent more time talking about that with Bobby and with the executives and Oz, all of them. We spent more time talking about that than anything else.
President Trump, what about the polio vaccine?
Well, I'm a big believer in it, and I think everything should be looked at, but I'm a big believer in the polio vaccine, the Salk vaccine.
Do you think schools should mandate vaccines? Do you think schools should mandate vaccines?
I don't like mandates. I'm not a big mandate person, so, you know, I was against mandates. Mostly Democrat governors did the mandates, and they did a very poor thing. It was, you know, in retrospect, they made a big mistake. Having to do with the education of children. You know, they lost like a year, 2 years of their lives. The mandate was a bad thing. I was against the mandate.
So is that something you'd want to...
Yes, please.
Do you expect Ron DeSantis to appoint Laura Trump to Senator Marco Rubio's seat?
No, I don't. I probably don't, but I don't know. Ron's doing a good job. That's his choice, nothing to do with me. Laura's unbelievable. I mean, she was incredible. The job she did at the RNC as chairman, along with Michael Whatley, the combination. But I can just speak for Laura. She is so highly respected by women. I mean, even her workout routines are through the roof. She lifts 150 pounds. I don't know how the hell she does it. She's a bad example for men and women's sports. Because I wouldn't be able to beat her, I don't believe. I'd try like hell. But no, she's an incredible woman. And, you know, it's funny, people oftentimes talk about nepotism. I never had, when I put her there, people said, how did you get her to do it? You know, she could have run for the Senate in North Carolina. Ted Budd would be the first to say. And he wouldn't have run. Nobody would have run. And she just said, no, I want to really focus on my children. When the election, and my family, she has a great family. When the election started getting closer, I asked her, would she go to Washington and work on the, as chairman of the committee along with Michael Watley. And they did such an unbelievable job, especially on cheating. They stopped it, or at least they stymied it. Too big to rig. And we won in a landslide. You know, we won tremendously. She did an amazing job. Now Ron is going to have to make, because Marco has been really a star already. And we haven't started, but, you know, we see signs of from some people, or very early, we see signs of stardom, and Marco has done incredibly. He's sort of born for it. It was such an easy decision. The Marco decision was such an easy, but he leaves a vacancy in Florida, and Ron's going to have to make that decision, and he'll make the right decision. I also know that Laura's got so many other things. I mean, she's got so many other things. People want her to be on television. They want to give her contracts. You know, her predominant thought is our country and her family. Those are her thoughts. But she's got so many other things that she's talking about.
Mr. President.
He'll make the right decision.
Mr. President. Should senators who oppose your nominees, your cabinet nominees, should they be primary?
If they are unreasonable, I'll give you a different answer, an answer that you'll be shocked to hear. If they're unreasonable, if they're opposing somebody for political reasons or stupid reasons, I would say has nothing to do with me. I would say they probably would be primaried. But if they're reasonable, fair, and really disagree with something or somebody, I could see that happening. But I do believe that if they're I think we have great people. I think we have a great group of people. Pam has been unbelievably received. You take a look, Pam Bondi. So many have been just unbelievably received. I think Pete Hegseth is making tremendous strides over the last week. He's going to be great. Look, he went to Princeton, he went to Harvard, he was a great student there, but he really was, from the first day I met him, all he wanted to talk about was military. He's just a military guy. I think it's a natural. This was my idea. And, you know, Pete Hegseth gave up a lot because he was going big places in Fox, big places, a lot of money. And he didn't even hesitate. When I said, do you want to do this? He said, absolutely. I said, you know, if it doesn't work out, you'll never have the opportunity that you have right now in terms of the world of entertainment or business, whatever you want to call it. You'll never have that opportunity again. In fact, it could be just the opposite because it's nasty out there. He said, I don't care. I have to do it for my country. He gave up a tremendous amount. If this didn't work, it would be a tragedy. Because, but that's what he loves. He loves the military. I never talked to him about anything else. He'd talk about the military. He'd come to see me about a soldier that was unfairly treated, and could I help? That's the only thing I virtually ever talked to him about. And I always remembered it. I've seen him many times, and I don't think I've ever had a subject on anything other than military with him. That's where his love is. And he didn't say, well, I'd like to think about it. I'd like to talk to my family. He said, not even a contest. And, you know, he was going through the roof over there. He was doing great. They have the #1 show that Saturday and Sunday with Will and Rachel. That was great chemistry. And if this didn't work out for him, it would be actually sort of tragic. Yeah.
Would you consider pardoning Eric Adams?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. I think that he was treated pretty unfairly. Now, I haven't seen the gravity of it all, but it seems, you know, like being upgraded in an airplane many years ago. I know probably everybody here has been upgraded. They see you're all stars, and they say, I want to upgrade that person from NBC. I'm going to upgrade him. And that would mean you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. I don't know. Somehow, I hope not. I mean, I'd have to see it because I don't know the facts. I think he was treated. You know, it's very interesting. When he essentially went against what was happening with the migrants coming in. And, you know, he made some pretty strong statements like, this is not sustainable. I said, you know what, he'll be indicted soon. And I said it, not as a prediction, a little bit lightheartedly, but I said it. I said, he's going to be indicted. And a few months later, he got indicted. So yeah, I would certainly look at it. Yes.
Mr. President, can I ask you a question about the drones?
Pulling them when you get into office, or will you make?
Well, you know, we had 5,000 troops along the border, and I asked a couple of generals, so we have an army of 250,000 in Syria, and you had an army of 400,000. They have many more people than that. Turkey is a major force, by the way, and Erdogan is somebody I got along with great, but he has a major military force, and his has not been worn out with war. It hasn't been worn out with all of the other things. I mean, he's built a very strong, powerful army. And so we have 5,000 soldiers in between a 5 million person army and a 250,000 person army. And I asked the general, what do you think of that situation? He said, they'll be wiped out immediately. And I moved them out and I took a lot of heat. And you know what happened? Nothing. Nothing. I saved a lot of lives. Now we have 900. They put some back. But 900, if you're talking about two, now one of the sides has been essentially wiped out, but nobody knows who the other side is. But I do. You know who it is? Turkey. Okay? Turkey's the one behind it. He's a very smart guy. They've wanted it for thousands of years, and he got it. And those people that went in are controlled by Turkey. And that's okay. It's another way to fight. But no, I don't think that I want to have our soldiers killed. But I don't think that will happen now anyway, because the one side's been decimated.
Mr. President, I want to ask you a question about the drones.
Are you concerned about more unrest in that region, or do you think it will calm?
Well, nobody knows what the final outcome is going to be in the region. You know, nobody knows who really the final. I believe it's Turkey, and I think Turkey is very smart. He's a very smart guy, and he's very tough. But Turkey did an unfriendly takeover without a lot of lives being lost. I can say that Assad was a butcher. What he did to children. You remember I attacked him with the 58 missiles, unbelievable missiles coming from ships 700 miles away, and every one of them hit their target. But I did that. That was the red line in the sand. Obama drew it, and then he refused to honor what he did. He said, if anybody goes across the red line, and Assad killed many more children after that, and Obama did nothing, but I did. I hit him with a lot of missiles. In fact, President Xi was sitting here the night he was in that dining room having chocolate cake. Remember the famous chocolate cake? But and that's when I explained what we were doing as the missiles were shot. And it was amazing as to precision, because every one of those missiles hit its target from a long distance away. Had President Obama drawn the line and where it meant something, you wouldn't have even had Russia there. But in the end, I never understood why Russia went there. They were not getting very much out of it. But now their time is taken up with Ukraine, and we'd like to get them to stop on Ukraine, and Ukraine stop also. As you know, when I went to the cathedral, which was fantastic, the job that they've done in France, and the job that Macron, Emmanuel did. He did a phenomenal job on the rebuilding of that cathedral. It's magnificent, and they did a great thing. And they had great respect for our country. They treated me, meaning I'm the country, I'm the representative of our country, and we were treated with great respect. And one of the people that came to pay his respects is, as you know, Ukraine, Zelensky. And he would like to have peace. He wants peace. Everyone's being killed. It's the worst carnage that this world has seen since World War II. I've had pictures of fields where bodies are lying on top of bodies. Looks like the old pictures of the Civil War, where just bodies are all over. Just if you saw those pictures, you'd feel more strongly about it. It's got to stop. And we're trying to get it to stop. Well, we're gonna see. We're gonna be talking. We'll be talking to President Putin, and we'll be talking to the representatives, Zelensky, and representatives from Ukraine. We got to stop it. It's carnage.
What about the fear here at home of the drones?
Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey and the ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you
Want to
shoot
know
them
the
down?
truth.
Why?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been
Do you have any reason to think they're a threat?
Two quick questions. First, on vaccines, do you want RFK Jr. to revoke any vaccines?
No, I want him to come back with a report as to what he thinks. We're going to find out a lot. We're doing two things. We're going to have tremendous cost savings will come out of this. That's a minimum. And we're also going to have, and I think, very serious discussions about certain things, whether it's pesticides. Europe doesn't use pesticides, and yet they have a better mortality rate than we do. They don't use pesticides. In fact, they use it as an excuse not to take our farm product. We spend billions and billions of dollars on pesticides, and something bad's happening. Again, you take a look at autism today versus 20, 25 years ago. It's like not even believable. So we're going to have reports. No, nothing's going to happen very quickly. I think you're going to find that Bobby he's a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing, you're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. I saw what happened with the polio. I have friends that were very much affected by that. I have friends from many years ago, and they have, obviously, they're still in not such good shape because of it. And many people died. And the moment they took that vaccine, it ended. Dr. Jonas Salk did a great job, so I don't anticipate that at all. But we're going to look into finding why is the autism rate so much higher than it was 20, 25, 30 years ago. I mean, it's 100 times higher. There's something wrong, and we're going to try finding that. We're also going to find out why are we paying more than other countries. And we were in the process of doing that through transparency and other things. We were doing a good job in that first term, and we brought it down. We got the $35, all of the different things. We got, we were the ones that got all of that done. Every one of those things, we got them done. I said, I hope I win, because otherwise somebody's going to take a lot of credit for what we did. But now what happens is we're gonna have a big conversation on price. Why is it that Germany and UK and other countries are paying so much more for the same box of medicine made in the same plant? Why is it that we're paying many times more? And I know the answer, because our government didn't do what they were supposed to do. And what I put in place was terminated unexpectedly by the Biden administration, and they shouldn't have terminated it. It would have had a huge impact.
And Mr. President, one quick question. On Ukraine, you mentioned that some of the areas are already decimated. Do you believe that Ukraine should cede territory to Russia?
Well, I'm going to let you know that after I have my first meeting. But a lot of that territory, when you look at what's happened to those, I mean, there are cities that there's not a building standing. It's a demolition site. There's not a building standing. So people can't go back to those cities. There's nothing there. It's just rubble. Just like when I knocked down a building in Manhattan, which is actually, this is worse, actually, because we do it step by step. This thing has just got demolished. And by the way, in those buildings are many people. Many people were in those buildings. When they say the number in Ukraine is going to be a much higher number of death, is going to be a much higher number than you're hearing. They're big buildings. That's what I did very well. And these are very long buildings. They're 15 to 20 stories high. They're massive buildings. I was surprised at how big. And they're flattened like a pancake. 1 or 2 bombs hit them, and they just collapsed. And they'd say, nobody was hurt. Well, nobody knows who was in those buildings. There were a lot of people in those buildings. They're going to find that when they start doing the removal. Many more people are being killed in the Ukraine war with Russia than is being reported, and that includes soldiers. The soldiers are being, it's a carnage that we haven't seen since the Second World War. It's got to be stopped. And I'm doing my best to stop it. Yeah, please, go ahead.
You had a meeting with Mrs. Abe yesterday, but Japanese Prime Minister... Mrs. Abe, yeah. And Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba is hoping to have a meeting anytime soon.
I will do that. In fact, I sent him a memento. I sent him a book, the Prime Minister. But Mrs. Abe was very close with our First Lady, with Melania, and she loved Melania's book. And she called and wanted to know if she could have... I was very close to the Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe. He was great. He was a great man. And his wife wanted to know if it would be possible to have dinner. And it was just out of respect to Shinzo. And yes, I'd love to see the Prime Minister, and we will do that. I actually sent him a book and some other things for him through Mrs. Abe.
Will that happen before the inauguration day?
It could. If they'd like to do that, I would do that, yeah.
Sir, President Trump,
I have great respect for the position, and if he'd like to do that, I'd be here.
Sir, report that Ambassador to Japan will be George Glass. Is that your final decision?
Highly respected man. That's right. Highly respected. He's been an ambassador before. Did a fantastic job. We consider Japan very important. He's very highly respected. Okay, couple of
Which other world leaders have you invited to the inauguration? Which other world leaders have you invited to the inauguration?
The world leaders are calling me, and some really would like to meet. No, I mean literally, they're calling me, and I'll be seeing some of them. I think it's rude not to. I mean, it's hard to say I'm not going to see you, and I've spoken to way over 100 where they called to congratulate on not only the election but the size of the election, the extent of the victory, and they were great. I mean, I spoke to over 100 countries. You wouldn't believe how many countries there are. And I'm trying the best I can to get back to everybody, but there are a lot of countries, and every one of them, literally everyone called, and it was very nice. So, yeah, I'd see some if some felt it was an emergency. I've seen, as you know, I've seen President Zelensky. He came to France while I was there for the cathedral opening. They actually had about 70 presidents and prime ministers, and in one case, a king, we saw some great people. I also met with William, and I was very impressed by William. I think William is terrific. I was very impressed by William. As you know, I met with him, too.
Are you just
President Trump, question about that.
Did you invite Zelensky to the inauguration?
No, but if you'd like to come, I'd like to have him. I mean, I didn't invite him, no.
Are you disappointed China's Xi can't come to the inauguration? Are you disappointed that China's Xi won't be at the inauguration?
I don't know that he won't be at the inauguration. I mean, I haven't really spoken to him about it. I don't know that, actually. I would say that if he'd like to come, I'd love to have him. But there's been nothing much discussed. I have had discussions with him, letters, et cetera, at a very high level. You know, we had a very good relationship until COVID. COVID didn't end the relationship, but it was a bridge too far for me. But if he'd like to come, I'd certainly be. He hasn't, just so you understand, he hasn't said one way or the other. Because a lot of people say he won't come, he will come. People think he will come, he won't come. It's something we barely discussed, just about didn't discuss. But I have had, especially through letters, some very good conversations.
Have you had conversations with Venezuela?
You know, because China and the United States can together solve all of the problems of the world, if you think about it. So it's very important. And, you know, he was a friend of mine. I mean, he was here for a long time, right in that spot, except sitting in a very comfortable chair. He wasn't standing like you are. But we spent hours and hours talking. And, you know, he's an amazing guy.
Have you spoken to Venezuela?
The press hates when I say that, but he's an amazing person.
Have you spoken to anyone in
President
Venezuela?
Trump, can I ask you about
If I could just ask you on the border. Hold on one second,
shooting?
real quick.
United Healthcare shooting, the shooting of the CEO in New York. Can you give us your thoughts about that? And what do you make of the reaction around the suspected shooter? Does that tell you anything about how people
I think it's a
healthcare?
terrible thing. I think it's really terrible that some people seem to admire him, like him. And I was happy to see that it wasn't specific to this gentleman that was killed. It's just an overall sickness as opposed to a specific sickness. That was a terrible thing. It was cold-blooded, just a cold-blooded, horrible killing. And how people can like this guy is, that's a sickness, actually. That's really very bad, especially the way it was done. It was so bad, right in the back. And very bad, thing like that, you can't believe that some people, and maybe it's fake news, I don't know. It's hard to believe that that can even be thought of, but it seems that there's a certain appetite for him. I don't get it. Yeah, please.
Could you just comment on?
I want to expand on the defamation lawsuits. Could you see moving that to other people with individual platforms, social media influencers, people that...
Or newspapers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I think you have to do it because they're very dishonest. We need a great media. We need a fair media. We need, it's very important. And we need borders. We need walls, but we need borders and we need fair elections. You look at California, millions and millions of ballots were sent out. They're still counting the vote in California with the machines. They're counting the vote. If you had paper ballots, the votes would have been counted 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Now, you need fair elections, you need borders, and you need a fair press. And the press is, no, I see others. I have a few others that I'm doing. I'm going to, as an example, I'm doing this not because I want to. I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world because I was going to win Iowa by 20 points. The farmers loved me, and I loved the farmers. And it was interesting the way she did it. She brought it down 2 weeks before. She said I was going to only win by 4. That was a big story. But that was good because she brought it down from like 22 points to 4 or whatever the number was, way up. Way up, an easy win. We never even thought to go there. I respect them, I love them, and they understand there's no reason to go there because she brought it from way up, walk away, which it was, and it turned out to be in the election too, by the way. It was a win by many, many points. And then she brought it down very smartly to 4 a couple of weeks before, and everyone said, wow, that's amazing. He's only up by 4 points. Then she brought it down to where I was down by 3 or 4, whatever the number she used. And that was the Des Moines Register, and it was their parent. And in my opinion, it was fraud, and it was election interference. You know, she's gotten me right always. She's a very good pollster. She knows what she was doing. And she then quit before. And we'll probably be filing a major lawsuit against them today or tomorrow. We're filing one on 60 Minutes, you know about that, where they took Kamala's answer, which was a crazy answer, a horrible answer, and they took the whole answer out and they replaced it with something else she said later on in the interview, which wasn't a great answer, but it wasn't like the first one. The first was grossly incompetent. It was weird. And that was fraud and election interference by their news magazine, a big part of CBS News. So as you know, we're involved in that one. We're involved in one which has been going on for a while and very successfully against Bob Woodward, where he didn't quote me properly from the tapes. And then on top of everything else, he sold the tapes, which he wasn't allowed to do. He could only use them for reporting purposes, not for sale purposes. And he admits that. And I think we'll be successful on that one. And we have one, very interestingly, on Pulitzer, because reporters at the New York Times, Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their wonderful, accurate, and highly professional reporting on the Russia hoax. Well, it turned out to be a hoax, and they were exactly wrong. People, like many people, John Solomon, Sean Hannity's not for Pulitzer, but Sean Hannity got it right. Many people got it right. Tucker got it right. Jesse got it right. Laura got it right. Janine got it right. A lot of people got it right. They didn't get anything. They gave it to reporters that got it absolutely wrong. And now everybody admits it was a hoax. And I want them to take back the Pulitzer Prizes and pay big damages. And I think we're doing very well on that one. They have no excuse for it. They gave a Pulitzer Prize to writers that got Russia wrong. And so I think we're doing well. And I feel I have to do this. I shouldn't really be the one to do it. It should have been Justice Department or somebody else, but I have to do it. It costs a lot of money to do it, but we have to straighten out the press. Our press is very corrupt, almost as corrupt as our elections.
Are you worried about Venezuela? Sir, have you had any discussions with Venezuela?
For January 6th defendants, you had said in the first few minutes of your administration you want to issue pardons for January 6th defendants. Does that include, will that be a blanket pardon? Does that include
Well, you'll find
everyone?
out, but it's going to go quickly.
And just to follow up on your
Have you had any
previous
discussion, sir, with in terms of your mass deportation plans, have you had any preliminary discussions with countries like Venezuela, from where the Tren de Aragua gang is now popping up?
They'll
across the
take them
country?
back.
They're going to take them back.
They're all taking them back, yep. And if they don't, they'll be met very harshly economically. Okay, they'll all take them back. You know, Venezuela and other countries were not behaving very well with us during my administration, and within 24 hours they were behaving very well. They'll all take them back.
And separately, can I ask a follow-up on
Jeff,
that?
nice to see you, Jeff. This is like the old days, right?
Nice to see you.
You look much better now than you did 4 years ago. What are you doing? What's he doing? All right, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The first day you just mentioned that you're in office, I imagine you've got some executive orders that you're going to go through. Can you tell us what
We'll have a lot. Well,
what are your priorities?
I'll bet you could tell. You could say as well as I could. We will have many executive orders and other things that we'll be signing on the first day.
Can you also, just going back to my initial question about the Middle East, you said that your conversation with Prime Minister Netanyahu was kind of a review. Did you repeat
We
that
just had a
threat?
very good conversation. And, you know, the real conversations will start on the 20th. But we had a really good conversation, and I think we're going to be in a good place in the Middle East. I think the Middle East will be in a good place. I think actually more difficult is going to be the Russia-Ukraine situation. I see that as more difficult. I don't think they should have allowed missiles to be shot 200 miles into Russia. I think that was a bad thing. And that brought the Koreans in, North Korea, another man I get along with very well. I'm the only one that does. But that did a lot of bad things. I don't think that should have been allowed. Not when there's a possibility, and certainly not just weeks before I take over. Why would they do that without asking me what I thought? I wouldn't have had them do that. I think that was a big mistake they made.
Will you reverse that decision when you're in office? To let those
I might, yeah.
missiles be
I thought it was a very stupid thing to do.
And when you
Do
say
you have any
that-
reaction
just
to
one
Duke
last one on
Cross?
this. When you say that there will be hell to pay if the hostages are not released before January 20th, what does that mean?
Well, they're going to have to determine what that means. But it means it won't be pleasant.
Mr. President,
It's not going to be pleasant, yeah?
How was your meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook, and did you talk about tariffs in that meeting?
Meeting with who?
Apple CEO Tim Cook.
I did have dinner with Tim Cook. I had dinner with sort of almost all of them, and the rest are coming. And this is one of the big differences, I think, between, we were talking about it before, one of the big differences between the first term. In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something. But I had, as you know, I had Sundar from Google, but I also had Sergey. Nobody reported that. Sergey is the owner, the primary owner, along with his friend, as you know. And Sergey was here also. I can't believe you didn't pick that one up. Nobody picked that up. But I will tell you, no, it's a big difference. The big difference is that the first time everybody was fighting me on all fronts. And we had a great administration. We got the biggest tax cuts in history, rebuilt the military. Too much of it was given away to Afghanistan. It was stupidly given away, horribly given away. I think that's one of the reasons that Putin went in to Ukraine when he saw the stupidity of Milley and these guys. They're stupid people, very stupid people. if they didn't do such a bad, we were pulling out of Afghanistan, but I would have pulled out with dignity and strength. They wouldn't be having parades, I guarantee you, showing our equipment that they left behind, because we weren't going to leave any equipment behind, not 10 cents. We were going to take every screw and every bolt. Yeah, the biggest difference is that people want to get along with me this time. Well, they've gone through 4 years, and, it wasn't easy for me, but it wasn't easy for them either. And that's a great thing, though. Getting along is a great thing. So Tim Cook was here. I think he's done an incredible job at Apple, and he talked about the future of Apple. It's going to be a bright future. But we have many others also, and not in that business. And we do have Jeff Bezos, Amazon, coming in sometime during the week. Look forward to that. We have a lot of great executives coming in. The top executives, the top bankers, they're all calling. And honestly, in the first time, I don't know what it was. It's like a complete opposite. In the first one, and the press has covered that fairly, actually, for change. The first one, they were very hostile. And maybe it was my fault, but I don't really think so. They were just right from the beginning. And this one is much less hostile. It's really the opposite of hostile.
Can I get your reaction?
Well, you
on
don't to give up Assad.
I know that you had some, I believe, involvement 18 years ago with the students at Duke accused of rape in the lacrosse. Now we have this development.
I thought it was a hoax when it happened, the Duke situation. I didn't believe the woman, as you know. And they destroyed the lives of these kids. They destroyed, and I don't care what they got. Their lives have been destroyed. Their lives have been shortened by what took place. And now the woman admitted that it never happened. That is a horrible. And as you know, I took a lot of heat when I said that this did not happen. And those kids were beautiful kids with beautiful families, and they were, in some cases, will never be the same. They will never be the same.
Have you talked to them by chance?
Your thoughts on the Postal Service? You mentioned Bezos a second ago, and I've always thought Bezos would be a key person to go in there and really streamline the logistics of the post office, but they lose billions.
Well, there is talk about the Postal Service being taken private. You do know that. Not the worst idea I've ever heard. It really isn't. It's a lot different today with between Amazon and UPS and FedEx and all the things that you didn't have. But there is talk about that. It's an idea that a lot of people have liked for a long time. We're looking at it. I think we're looking at that along with a lot of other. Any questions for Howard, by the way? Commerce.
Sure, I'll ask one. Mr. Incoming Secretary, do you see another trade deal with China coming?
Next, President-elect has a plan for lowering the national debt, which has reached a historic $36 trillion. So what's his plan? Explosive economic growth. To learn more about this, we speak with Michael Buster, professor of finance at Stockton University and public policy analyst. Thanks for coming on, Michael. Good to see you. So first off, multiple business heavyweights, including Larry Fink, Jeff Bezos, have also suggested that expanding the economy to manage the nation's sprawling debt. How effective do you think this strategy could be?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. As you know, it's always my pleasure to be here. That strategy, coupled with the strategy of reducing government spending, will work. Look, we're stuck in a very deep hole with this $36 trillion deficit. The first thing you do when you're stuck in a deep hole is stop digging. So what they're going to do is bring in Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and dramatically cut government spending. Once they get the government spending down, they'll be able to come closer to balancing the budget, especially if through deregulation, tax cuts, providing incentives, we can increase economic growth. Really since almost 15, 20 years, we've been stuck, except where the pandemic threw things off, we were stuck in about a 2% growth rate. So President Trump will take action to increase the growth rate. Once you increase the growth rate, you're generating more income. And when you're generating more income, tax revenue will go up. So by bringing tax revenue up, by growing the economy, and by significantly reducing government spending, they'll be able to balance the budget and at least stop the debt from getting any larger. After that, they'll work on ways to try to get the debt down.
So you're saying when Trump says he wants to improve the economy, you're talking about GDP, right? Specifically, what are we talking about here?
So what he'd like to do is to get growth in the economy, which is measured by the percent change in GDP every year, which has been, again, except for the pandemic, which has been mired in about a 2% growth rate. I remember back in 2010, the New York Times ran articles and said 2% growth is the new normal, and we're just going to have to accept it. Well, President Trump is not going to accept it. He's going to get the economic growth rate up in the 3-4%, even more, using similar policies to what Ronald Reagan used back in 1980. When Reagan got into office, he put through supply-side tax cuts. He put through reductions in regulations. He put incentives in for people to grow. In 1984, the economy grew at a 7.4% growth rate. I'm not sure if Trump will be able to hit that much. Maybe he can. But by adding that much economic growth, you create that much more income, and then that creates more tax revenue. Bring the spending down, bring the tax revenue up. You'll be able to balance the budget and maybe even run surpluses to start to pay this debt down.
Does inflation have a correlation to economic growth, to GDP? In that if Trump increases the economic growth, will we have more inflation?
Well, he's going to do it. So historically, when you try to stimulate the economy, you try to increase demand. You increase government spending, you reduce interest rates. That increases demand. Now, when you increase demand, the growth will come, but it could lead to inflation. The newer theories are supply side oriented, which Reagan followed and Trump is going to follow. That says take action to increase total supply. That'll get output to grow, and by increasing supply, you'll put downward pressure on prices. So I'm not afraid of an inflation problem under Trump, especially considering that he's going to vastly increase the production of energy. And when you do that, the price of energy will come down significantly. He says he can cut energy prices in half within a year. That's very aggressive. But he'll take action to bring energy prices down, and that will put downward pressure on prices too and help alleviate inflation. Remember when Trump left office in January of 2021, the annual inflation rate was 1.4%. That's what he's going to try to get back to.
And let's talk about energy here. Energy goes into everything, right? And that's Trump's argument of prices being higher than before. My question is, if companies' input costs due to energy being lower is reduced, doesn't that mean more profit margin for that company? If they lower their prices, that means a smaller profit margin. So why would companies lower prices? Because energy is cheaper.
So when the cost to produce goes down, companies, they're in competition with other companies. They want to pick up market share. Once their costs go down, they can reduce their prices and still maintain profit margins. And that's how the free market system works. If you put in actions that will reduce costs, it will eventually lead to lower prices. And that's what Trump is expected to do.
And how comparable will Trump's proposed model be that of Clinton's? Because as you know, 2 years under former President Bill Clinton ended in budget surpluses.
I love what Bill Clinton did. He took the capital gains tax rate, lowered it from 28 to 20%. That increased tax revenue and spurred economic growth. Then in his 1996 State of the Union speech, his exact words were, "The era of big government is over." And working with Newt Gingrich, who was Speaker of the House at the time, they were able to reduce government spending. The capital gains tax cut brought tax revenue up. Not only did he balance the budget, for 4 years, we had a 4% annual economic growth, and the budget was in surplus. The only 4 years in the last 65 that the budget has been in surplus. President Trump will attempt to do the same thing. Lower tax rates, which will increase, not decrease, increase tax revenue and bring government spending down. Economic growth will accelerate. He'll balance the budget, and maybe he'll be able to run surpluses also.
All right, Michael, always great to speak with you. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you.
Yeah, Michael Busler, right there from Stockton University, professor of finance.
Coming in with some bright forecasts for the next administration and the economy as a whole, pointedly saying that he believes Trump will manage inflation through this downward pressure and increase of demand and supply.
Yeah, hopeful indeed. He's saying that not only will Trump increase economic growth, that's GDP, and at the same time, he'll lower inflation and lower energy prices, and as well as everyday goods, prices for everyday essentials. So a lot of optimistic predictions right there.
Next up, Trump has announced a historic $100 billion investment in the U.S. by Japanese tech giant SoftBank.
He held a press conference at Mar-a-Lago moments ago.
One more thing I'm really hoping is that this President Trump would make the world, bring the world into peace again. That's my additional hope.
The investment will create 100,000 jobs focused on AI and related infrastructure. The money will be deployed before the end of Trump's term. Trump said the investment was evidence of monumental confidence in America's future. It fits in with Trump's vow to bolster the U.S. economy and reduce the impact of inflation.
During his press conference, Trump also mentioned his plans for the next term, including building the border wall and ending global conflicts. He also touted his new incentive to attract investment in the U.S.
The Supreme Court today declined to hear an appeal from Peter Navarro on his years-long battle with the government over presidential records. The National Archives and Records Administration has demanded Trump's former trade advisor turn over records he kept on his private email during the first Trump administration. But Navarro has resisted, saying the federal law requiring presidential records be turned over is not enforceable. Lower courts consistently sided with the Justice Department in the dispute. Navarro asked the Supreme Court to look into his case in October. The court declined today without comment or noted dissent. The decision leaves in place a lower court order that required Navarro turn over the documents.
Trump campaign advisor Alex Brazewitz collapsed on stage while speaking at the New York Young Republic Club Gala last night. The 27-year-old CEO of consulting firm X Strategies has been credited with helping the president to engage young American voters. In video footage of the speech, Brazewitz was heard saying, "I'm forgetting my words," before he collapsed and fell off stage. Brazewitz worked with Trump's son, Barron, during the 2024 presidential campaign to boost outreach to young people. Toward the end of his campaign, Trump sat down with several popular podcasters, such as Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, Lex Friedman, and others as well. The Rogan interview alone drew in 52 million views in just over a month. Brazewitz's current condition was unclear.
A former FBI informant is set to plead guilty today to lying about a phony bribery scheme. The case involved President Biden and his son Hunter. Alexander Smirnov is expected to make the plea in Los Angeles to a felony charge in connection with the made-up story. He will also plead guilty to a tax evasion charge. Smirnov has been behind bars since his arrest in February. He claimed that executives from the company Burisma paid Biden and his son Hunter $5 million each in 2015. Prosecutors and the defense have agreed to recommend a sentence of between 4 and 6 years in prison. Smirnov had been an informant for more than a decade when he made the explosive allegations about the Bidens in June of 2020. The buzz around mystery drone sightings continues. Now the federal government says it's taking action to address the issue in New Jersey.
This comes as members of Congress prepare measures to enhance local authorities' ability to track and respond to drones. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the story.
Several states, including New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Virginia, and Ohio, are now reported to have sighted flying objects appearing to be drones.
Just as I'm sitting here, you can see clearly 3 drones sitting outside of our town hall, hovering over what could be our reservoirs, our electrical grid system, and most importantly, our military installation that calls Middletown home.
In New Jersey and New York, the DHS secretary says the federal government deployed detection systems to address the drones. Governor Kathy Hochul said on Sunday that she's grateful for the support, but the state needs more. Specifically, local authorities need more power to not only detect the drones, but also to directly deal with them.
Because right now, it's our county sheriffs, it's our local police departments, it's our state police that are at the front lines, yet the federal government has the jurisdiction.
Senate Leader Chuck Schumer says he's preparing legislation for Congress to expand local authority. And while federal officials have continuously said they have no evidence of a safety or security risk, concerned citizens await answers.
Right. I mean, it's not enough because people still have a lot of questions to understand where they're from.
Potentially our own government that may be doing some surveillance or counterterrorism, but then be honest. Be honest with the public and let people know, because right now we feel like a bunch of characters in War of the Worlds, and we deserve to know the truth.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
A federal appeals judge has reversed his decision to retire. Judge James Wynn of the Fourth Circuit announced the change last week.
He is now the 3rd judge to rescind retirement since November's election.
In his letter, Wynn did not cite a specific reason. His withdrawal also halted plans to confirm Biden nominee Ryan Park. Park had been nominated to replace Wynn, but later withdrew. Critics have labeled the move as politically motivated. Senator Tom Tillis called it partisan and unprecedented.
2 other judges, Max Cogburn and Algernon Marbury, also reversed retirements. All 3 were originally appointed by Democratic administrations. This reshapes upcoming judicial confirmations as President-elect Trump prepares to take office.
Google's former CEO, Eric Schmidt, is warning that artificial intelligence will soon work autonomously, and that could pose a threat.
Schmidt told ABC's George Stephanopoulos that Chinese AI technology has advanced with remarkable speed.
We're soon going to be able to have computers running on their own, deciding what they want to do. And eventually you say to the computer, learn everything and do everything. And that's a dangerous point. When the system can self-improve, we need to seriously think about unplugging it. Well, I used to think we were a couple of years ahead of China, but China has caught up in the last 6 months in a way that is remarkable. The Chinese are clever, and they understand the power of a new kind of intelligence for their industrial might, their military might, and their surveillance system.
Schmidt said it's crucial for the U.S. to innovate, but also warned that current regulation related to AI is insufficient.
He talked about steps that companies follow to ensure their AI do not give out harmful information, but increasing competition could potentially lead to some companies omitting these steps. Canada's Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, unexpectedly resigned from the cabinet today. She had been one of the most powerful ministers and a close ally of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Freeland said in her resignation letter to Trudeau, quote, "For the past number of weeks, you and I have found ourselves at odds about the best path forward for Canada." According to Freeland, Trudeau no longer wanted her as finance minister and offered her another position in the cabinet last Friday. Freeland and Trudeau have reportedly been at odds over recent economic policies, for example, a sales tax holiday. Freeland's resignation leaves Trudeau without a key ally amid his declining popularity.
Coming up, the EU presses Syria's new leaders for peace assurances as asylum claims for Syrians are paused across Europe.
The European Union adopts yet another sanctions package against Russia, now also targeting China.
Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz has lost a parliament vote of no confidence. It's the result he hoped for and the first move toward securing an early election.
Will radical lies determine your child's future, or will timeless truths? Fathom the Good equips children with wisdom against the world. Our homeschool curriculum teaches high schoolers to think critically. We provide primary texts, original content, reasoning tools, and mentoring videos to help them transform America. Teach your children to navigate the world's woke confusion. Teach them to fathom the good.
23 سال 16 سال عمري ما حفظ
اما داعش کردیان برانبر خوشکو دایکانی ازدی ما کاری که دور دور لهمو چمک دموکراسی و موافقانی مرو و انسانیت او بارودوخی که است های به تایبت لعراق و سوریا بشه که دگرت و با و حالانه که اداره اوباما کرد
وریم بو او هفت روز بو و داعش از کرد
تامبوم كرا قوتينيز قريا بما متشكر بهر بيدن نبو باوان رحم نبو
ودمنا سؤالا من خادران نزل باوان نفستم بس نا وانا قوبس ناش بيشوش باش.
They would literally be auctioned in front of soldiers, and then the soldiers begin to bid.
زارود وان همو جيبرم تي حملي زارود الدم واسسي وان همو جيبرم
وحشیگریه که توا عیاره ظلمی که یک جار زور گوره لما افرطانه کرده و تعدایی که زور زوریان لیده کرده اما نه روزانه دست فروشیده
اليوم التوزيع كلنا نصيب.
Imagine being a child, you know, having a child mentality, and these evil people come and wheel you away from the only safety you've ever known.
President Biden is now speaking to the Department of Labor on the state of the American economy.
Let's tune into the speech.
I've been around a long time. She's the only secretary I've ever worked with or had working for me. When I say that's done, she said, no, we have this to do now. Thank you, kiddo. Look, you know, former labor secretary who's now in the White House Senior Advisors Corps is Tom Perez. Tom, thanks for sticking with me. And members of Congress, including Maine Senator Angus King and Shirley Pingree, where are you guys? All over here. Okay, there you go. And by the way, last night we were doing a Christmas event at the house, and I got finished talking to a group of folks from labor, and my wife said, and by the way, his wife's a member of a labor union too. I'm Joe Biden's husband. She's not here today, but she's been a long-time union member of the National Education Association. And it's fitting, with all these powerful women here, that we're gathered at headquarters of the Department of Labor. Named after one of America's greatest labor leaders. Now, that's not hyperbole. Frances Perkins. You know, we're honored to be joined by her grandson, Tomlin. Where are you, Tomlin? Thank you, Bud. Saturday, March 25th, 1911. Frances sat down for afternoon tea at her home with a close friend from New York City. Suddenly, they hear the sound of a distant screams and sirens. The building was in flames. Her instinct was to run to the scene. As she approached the fire and smoke, she recognized the Triangle Shirt Factory, a company that employed hundreds of workers, mostly immigrants and women who worked long hours, crammed into tight quarters, where managers locked them inside to make clothing. In an instant, those workers are trapped in a brutal blaze with no safe exit. Some workers forced to climb out the windows, holding on for dear life until their fingers gave out. Others just jumped, prayed and jumped. A total of 150 lives were lost that day. It was the deadliest industrial disaster in American history. Frances was devastated, but that fire ignited a passion in her. It strengthened her resolve to fight even harder for working Americans and working families. In her decades of service, she became a fierce defender of unions and workers' rights, an architect of the New Deal, the first woman cabinet secretary, I increased on that a little bit because I know what my family's like. All the really bright people in my family are women. And the longest-serving Secretary of Labor in American history. God love you. And the story goes, after Franklin Roosevelt asked her to become his labor secretary, Frances Perkins immediately responded by outlining her goals, what she wanted done. She said, I want unemployment relief, overtime pay, child labor laws, minimum wage, workers' compensation, national health insurance, and Social Security. Many of the benefits we take for granted as a consequence of Frances' dedication, insight, and courage. But can you imagine walking up to Roosevelt saying, oh, here, I'll take the job, but here's the deal, man. Let's get this straight. Like I said, a little bit like when I asked Frances to do my job. Hard-fought battles with Teamsters and, a real testament to her skill as an advocate for public servants. An example that through the Fair Labor Standards Act, she cemented the idea that if you're working a full-time job, you shouldn't have to live in poverty. A simple proposition. If you work a little extra, you should have extra money for overtime. Not a crazy idea. Some even argue about it now. Frances understood what my dad taught me. And you've heard me say this 1,000 times, but he really would say this. He said, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. That's my dad. In fact, during her 12 years in office, she accomplished everything on her list except expanded health care for health insurance. It took 65 years later and a guy named Barack Obama and I to get the Affordable Care Act passed. Thank God all of us here protected and expanded the Affordable Care Act. Look, it's clear that Frances Perkins and a generation of activists and labor leaders laid the groundwork for much of what we've accomplished in the last 4 years. We're fundamentally transforming the economy by breaking an economic orthodoxy that has failed this nation for generation after generation, in my view. Trickle-down economics, the notion that if the wealthy do very, very well, a little trickle off their tables, onto our kitchen table. My dad used to say, nothing ever trickled on my table, honey. No, I'm serious. My dad was a really well-read man who didn't get to go. He went accepted to Johns Hopkins, but during the war he never got to go. But my dad was a well-read guy. Well, the primary benefits to the very wealthy and biggest corporations were trickle-down economics. And that didn't do much for working people in the middle class and left too many people behind. Together we built an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. Because we know this simple truth. Wall Street didn't build America. The middle class built America. And unions built the middle class. That's a fact. In fact, as the Secretary of Treasury will tell you, I asked her to do a study because I was going to get hit because I knew they'd say by having unions increase in their numbers and their wages go up, we were going to cost people things. Guess what? The study the Treasury did show that when unions do well, all workers do well. Union and non-worker across the board. It matters, it works, it's fair. Kamala and I are so proud of the great job creation record of actually the greatest job creation of any single president in a single term. Over 6 million new jobs so far, including 1.5 million manufacturing and construction jobs. Good paying jobs you could raise a family on, don't have to require a 4-year degree. And get this, there are more women, especially mothers in the workforce, than ever before in American history. We're so damn proud to protected pensions of millions of union workers and retirees. When I signed the Bush-Lewis Act, think about that. Imagine what the average American would say if you were going to do that with their Social Security, which this guy wants to do. Imagine if he said your pension, you can't count it anymore. In addition, we've recovered more than $1 billion in back wages and damages for over 600,000 workers here in America. We push for a right to a living wage and your right to overtime pay. Jobs and factories are coming back home to America because we invested in an American agenda. We're modernizing American infrastructure. Last guy had the job, he had infrastructure week every week. Didn't build a damn thing. Well, guess what? We built a lot, and guess what's coming? Look, folks, one of the things that is frustrating, I knew this was going to happen because I've been around a long time. I talked over to the Secretary of Agriculture and other places. Guess what? All the things, we have $1.4 trillion in economic and infrastructure growth. That's thousands of good paying jobs. The Chips and Science Act, investing billions of dollars, building these fabs that are going to house hundreds of people working, thousands. They're going to be getting paid about an average $102,000 a year and don't need a college degree. So much is going on. But it's going to take a little bit of time. But we got to make sure to protect the onslaught that's going to come, because it's hard to see right away. And by the way, I know I got criticized by putting as many of these programs in red states as blue states. Actually more. Well, guess what? The red state guy screwed it up. And we got a benefit. We represent all of America. Not just blue America, not just Democrats, but all of America. Look, as we do all this, we're buying America, using American workers, using American products. And we're standing up to American steelworkers against China's unfair trade practices. We've appointed a National Labor Relations Board that actually believes in unions, has pro-union members on the board. Strange notion. And a special thank you to the chair of the board, Lauren McFerrin. Seriously, where are you, Lauren? Thank you, Lauren. Don't be so shy. Raise your stand up. Let everybody see you. And it's no accident that petitions to form unions have doubled under my presidency. I got all this credit for walking the picket line. It never crossed my mind not to walk the picket line. No, I'm serious. I didn't think it was any big deal. Walked a lot of picket lines. In fact, I was president. I hadn't thought about that. Then Pamela walked the picket line. We support the right to fair contracts. Here's one, that doesn't get enough attention. When workers in sectors like construction, manufacturing, mining inhale toxic silica dust on the job, it can lead to lung cancer and other deadly diseases. It's been a major problem for decades, even under Secretary Perkins. She led an investigation, but despite the science, big business blocked the regulation. But not on our watch, not on your watch. With your help, we carried Francis Mantle and issued a rule that finally reduces such dangerous exposure. And by the way, our Secretary of Veterans Affairs is sitting in front of me here, one of the really good guys. I really mean it. What we not only did for the Chips and Science Act, and then we went and made sure we were going to take care of veterans. We said all those folks in my generation exposed to Agent Orange couldn't prove that their illness was a consequence of it. and all those like my son's generation that are exposed to toxic burn pits in Iraq and other places, that it's assumed that my son came back, for example, with stage 4 glioblastoma, more brain injuries than anything else. And guess what? They're entitled to the benefits that they were going to get if they had not lost their lives. Their families. And to ad lib here a little bit, I think the American people are beginning to figure out all we're doing is basically decent and fair. Just basically decent and fair. We have a lot of sacred obligations. I got in trouble for saying this before. But we only have one truly sacred obligation: to prepare those we send into harm's way and prepare for them and their families when they come home. And that's a simple proposition. Finally, that's happening. What you got, another 1 million now? 1 million you're taking care of. Make no apologies. I'm so damn proud of that. Look, folks, in our 4 years together, we made historic investments that have changed the course of the nation's future and will have a lasting impact for decades to come. And I'm here to say, to state the obvious, we could not have done this without the dedicated professionals here at the Department of Labor and all across this administration. Could not have done it. And I'm damn proud to be known as the most pro-labor administration in American history, because we are. We are. We make no apologies. Look, let me close with this. Francis Perkins once said, "The people are what matter to government, and the government should aim to give people, all people, under its jurisdiction, the best possible life." The best possible life. For my dad, it was a simple proposition. Everybody deserves a shot. No guarantee, but a shot. Everybody deserves a shot. All of you have helped upheld that vision, putting people first, no matter who they are. Another important legacy of our administration, making sure we learn from history, lift up stories that often have gone untold. Early this year, during Women's History Month, I signed the first ever executive order on recognizing and honoring women's history to increase representation of women in historic sites all across America. Today, I'm proud to stand here in the Francis Perkins building, headquarters of the Labor Department, to designate Francis Perkins Homestead in Newcastle, Maine, a national monument. And Secretary Holland is also going to be announcing 5 new National Historic Landmarks to honor women's contributions to American history. It includes Charleston Cigar Factory, excuse me, where black women led workers' strike that opposed gender and racial discrimination, advocated for better pay for working conditions. Look, too many people want to rewrite history or ignore it. Look, all we want to do is make sure we record history, the good, bad, and the indifferent, who we are. I was able to show up in an Indian country and apologize for what we did to the Indian Americans, for the schools we made them go to and took them right off the reservations for their parents. Throughout our history, women's vision and achievements have strengthened this nation, to state the obvious. That's why I've kept my commitment to have an administration that looks like America. It includes having more women in senior access all across the board, starting with my amazing Vice President, Kamala Harris. It's about time we honor them in building an American Women's Museum and a History Museum on the Mall. And the Women's Suffrage National Monument on the National Mall. And by the way, It's time for Congress to move and authorizing that legislation moving it forward. They should do it now before this Congress ends. Folks, our administration is coming to an end, but our work continues. We get up. We keep going. We keep the faith. I know I will. I know you will. Just remember who in the hell we are. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. Nothing, nothing, nothing. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. And now, I will sign the proclamation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here.
And for round-the-clock original news coverage, watch us live at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app.
If you have any feedback, please email us and be sure to stick around for NTD Newsroom at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll cover more stories from the U.S. and around the world. Thank you for watching.